Am I the asshole for not caring about my wife getting STDs? I, 27 male, married my wife, 29 female, 4 years ago. We've been together for 8 years, and we have a son who is a toddler together. English isn't my native language. So around 6 or 7 months ago, I struggled with some mental and medical problems that made my libido go down to the point that we had a dead bedroom for 4 months. Around 2 months ago, my wife asked me to open up our marriage because she's frustrated and disappointed with our bed life. She also started acting cold around me before that. At that point, I was very stressed and anxious, so I easily agreed to save our marriage, and we had some agreement. So she seems to come back to normal, and I felt relieved. A week ago, she suddenly started to want to have sex with me again, and I rejected that because I was still trying to improve my mental health. She broke down, and we had an argument, in which she left the house to stay with her sister. In the comments, Ambroisi says, "I'm sorry, OP, but there are so many red flags, and none of those are coming from you. 1. While you have mental and medical problems and try to deal with them, your wife decides to open your marriage and go sleep around, instead of helping you get better and work on your marriage. Her sexual frustration is more important to her than your own health. That should have been your first and last cue that she is an awful person. 2. Your wife asks you to have sex, but your mental health hasn't been improving and you deny it. Within good reason, in my opinion. She lashes out at you and leaves you and the kids. 3. She doesn't call any of you for 2 days. I mean, your frickin' son doesn't understand where his mum is, and she just doesn't care at all. 4. She found out that she had an STD and is probably the real reason she left to her sister's house. To me, this is the apogee of disrespect. Not only did she probably not take enough protections, and clearly didn't care, while sleeping with other men, but she tried to have sex with you knowing there was a possibility she had an STD? And 5, you're here trying to figure out if you're an asshole for not being concerned about something that you didn't know anything about. Seriously? OP, you need to open your eyes. Not just your marriage. Not the asshole. I wouldn't put it past her trying to give it to him and running away when that didn't work. Her acting like normal was an act. I thought the same. I even thought of the possibility of her knowing fully that she had an STD while trying to have sex with OP so she could accuse him of passing it to her afterwards, exactly like her sister did. Something is clearly wrong either way. Basically the worst scenario for an open relationship there is. Cut it off, homie. I'm hoping you mean cut off the relationship, not his member. Both. Sorry, dog. No, you're so beautiful, King. Don't cut it off. I don't know where the comments are getting all this extra information from. I think OP probably commented a bunch and I just didn't see them. In that sentence, exactly like her sister did, I'm guessing the sister accused OP of giving her the STD. That's not specifically and definitely stated within the post, but to me it sounds like OP's wife went to her and spun a ridiculous story, and now it's a he said, she said situation in which there is no winning for OP, whose mental and physical health is already in the dumps. On top of all of the bullshit that she pulled before this is even more evidence to how bad of a person she is. I don't see this ending well. I see this ending in divorce and lots of hurt feelings and the child being caught in the middle of this. This is a terrible situation. And no matter what, OP is not the arsehole here. His wife is an enormous arsehole, in my opinion. And now, onto the update, titled, "My wife just admitted to cheating on me and getting gonorrhea. Am I the arsehole if I wanted to leave?" To sum up, 6 months ago I had some mental and medical problems that prevented me from having sex with her. She convinced me to get into an open marriage, and she had it for 2 months, until 2 weeks ago when she suddenly wanted to be intimate again, and when I refused, she got angry and left. I couldn't connect with her for a whole week until her sister called, accusing me of having an affair and giving her STDs. I immediately went to the doctor, and it was confirmed that I didn't have it. I tried to contact her sister again, but I was blocked by all her family. 2 days ago, she drove home for the first time to visit our son, whom she had abandoned with me for more than a week. We sat down and talked. She admitted that she had known this person for 3 weeks before I agreed to open the relationship. I asked about the STDs that her sister had told me about, and her face turned pale. I had to urge her a few times until she admitted that she has gonorrhea and that the other partner had lied to her about his medical condition and protection methods, and he already cut off contact with her. I asked her if she knew and that she wanted to infect me that day. She was silent for a few minutes until she burst into tears and begged me to forgive her and that it was just a foolish thought in a panic and fear. I lost my temper and yelled at her and kicked her out of the house. I said we're done. I'm feeling so many emotions. Heartbreak, anger. I don't know what I feel anymore, but it is so painful. I was with her for 8 years, and I thought we would be together forever. My in-laws and our mutual friends all sent me a bunch of messages telling me to forgive her and that she knew she was wrong and had already gotten the karma that she deserved. I should think about my son and how difficult it would be if I wanted to get custody of him. And they were right. I no longer had contact with relatives or anyone I could rely on, so I feel very hopeless. What should I do? Can I forgive her after all of this to start again? In the comments, Yoroichi Tao says, "In my opinion, no. Don't take her back. She tried to intentionally infect you as well, and probably lied to people about why she left, and the fact that your in-laws blocked you during that time, but then unblocked you to say to stay with her, is terrible. They weren't thinking about you or the baby, they were thinking about her and how she can save her marriage. Time to get a lawyer. This isn't something you can come back from." My guess, she tried to infect him so when he found out, she could claim he's the one that gave it to her. That's what I think too. Didn't her family already yell at him for giving her STDs? Which means she told her family she got it from him, or at least didn't correct their assumption. Because she didn't want to admit that she was an idiot who didn't use proper caution and boned some guy that she barely knew and obviously couldn't trust. She got and didn't want to have to own up to it. OP says, "Her sister did text me with an apology, but that's it. The others just text me something like, 'I know you're very hurt right now, but your son needs his mum, and she is very remorseful. Please give her a chance to make it right.' I didn't answer any of those texts. It made me feel anger every time I looked at them." And now, onto the latest update. So first of all, thank you to anyone who gave me good advice and kind words. I really appreciate all the support. Me and my wife are separating now. I'm currently hiring a part-time nanny to take care of my son while I'm at work, even though I already cut back my work hours. I did find a lawyer to advise me about the divorce procedure, what I would lose after the divorce, etc. He also said that I needed to collect more evidence that my wife really wanted to infect me though. I think it's quite hard because she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. The charges we made, such as abandonment or adultery, seem like they won't work either. My wife is starting to visit our son 4 times a week now. She now acts like a good mother and begs me to do couples therapy. Her treatment is complete. She said that she had closed the marriage from her side and willingly set the postnup how I want if I give her the chance. Her family is still texting about how her days are miserable without me and our child. I kind of ignore them. I'd not blocked them in case of things breaking down, and I still have a record. This is my update. I'm still getting used to the lifestyle of just me and my child. I have agreed to marriage counseling with her this Saturday, though I don't think it'll change anything. In the comments, Mia Bank Guy says, quote, "Her family is still texting about how her days are miserable without me and our child. Screw those in-laws. When sister-in-law thought he cheated, she treated him like shit, but now their precious sister or daughter got exposed, he must forgive and take her back. Nah, to hell with them." For me, the biggest problem was that she didn't support him when he had mental health issues. I'd say purposefully trying to infect him with gonorrhea was a bit worse than ignoring his mental health struggles. I'll take apathy over intentional STD infection any day. She emotionally cheated, then forced OP to open the marriage, broke the rules, went raw, got infected, tried to pass it on to OP to blame him, and when it didn't work, manipulated the narrative to her family anyway. Like, wow. How could anyone even do this to someone they made a vow with? I'd have felt immense guilt doing this even to my worst enemy. At this point, I don't put anything past her. To the point, even though I didn't see it mentioned, I'd be wondering if that was even my kid. There isn't a lot of daylight between knowingly infecting your partner with an STI and knowingly trying to pass off the product of prior infidelity. She was calculated from the beginning to the end here. I wouldn't believe a word she said. At this point, if she told me it was raining, I'd have to stick my hand out the window to make sure. To intentionally infect someone with an STD to make yourself look better is some heinous shit. Oh, absolutely. She deserves to be plunged into the depths of hell for that one. That is absolutely nasty motion on her end. And it's insane to see just how one-sided everything is on the in-laws' side. She does the most evil, heinous shit imaginable, and all of a sudden it's, oh, can you just get over it already? It's really not that big of a deal. But she makes one unfounded accusation, suddenly everyone blocks him, everyone takes her side, and says, you need to honestly deal with yourself, OP. You're worse than pond scum. With family like that, who needs enemies, guys? You got your own homegrown hater base right there with a click of a button. Honestly, I'm so glad that OP is getting a divorce, getting all his ducks in a row, and getting the hell out of there. I really hope that the future looks bright for him, and I hope his ex gets the future that she deserves, because she's definitely earned it. Our next post is by user JasidNadigidiWishNadigidish, titled, Friend female 25, who once rejected me, male 25, now says she likes me, now that I have money. 3 years ago in university, I told one of my best friends that I was in love with her. After pouring my heart out, she told me that she likes tall guys. Being told that I wasn't tall enough hurt quite a lot, but she wasn't trying to be mean, just frank. 18 months ago, I started a company that expanded very quickly, and now I have over 30 employees. Obviously, being the owner of a company this size, I now have a lot more money. Anyway, over the years, we've stayed good friends. On Wednesday, 3 days ago, she told me that she still has feelings for me and wants to be together. She kissed me. We have a lot of history, and I do still love her. I told her that I would have to think about it. I know that it's easy to assume that she just wants to use me, but is it possible that she now has real feelings for me? Can power make a man more attractive? I'm still the same person as before. I haven't changed at all. Part of me suspects she wants my money, but at the same time, I love her so much, and we've been close friends for a long time. It's just the worst timing ever because the money makes me question her motives. In the comments, Young Jolly says, go out with her and split everything 50-50. See what happens. And OP says, I would feel so weird doing that. I've always paid, at least the first date, so it'd be especially weird now that I have plenty of money. Plus, she's been having money problems. Oh, did those money problems start when she realized you have money? Interesting. Deleted says, there could be a huge change in someone from 22 to 25. I can't tell if she's a gold digger or not. Did you ask her what's changed? Why is she interested now? Has she ever appeared shallow? What do you like about her? OP says, no, I didn't ask her if anything has changed. From my end, everything is exactly the same. She dated a very rich guy a while back, and she likes nice things, but not too different from anyone else. What do I like about her? Well, where do I start? She's beautiful and smart. We can talk about anything. She makes life bearable. We have the same sense of humor. Everything, really. Escarole Soup says, from what you've said in your comments, i.e. she hasn't had a good job since she graduated, you always pay when you guys hang out. I wouldn't be surprised if your money is what she's most attracted to. I don't mean I think she's sitting in a darkened room plotting to take your money and laughing maniacally to herself, but it seems like she's now in a stage of her life where she realizes she doesn't have the means to support the lifestyle that she wants herself. You already pay for your outings, so you're the perfect candidate. I would have major difficulty trusting the relationship, and the most important question I would ask is, will she have a good income herself? If she will be financially successful without you, then maybe she now sees you in a different light, and yeah, I could trust her. But if she is or was a theatre major working at Chili's, expecting to rely on you for financial support, then I would move on. Out of curiosity, what type of business is it? OP says she majored in psychology but doesn't want to go back to school to study and hasn't really had a decent job since she graduated. She wanted to be a psychologist, but I don't think she has any idea now. That's one of the major reasons I question her. It's a software company. What other type of business actually turns a profit these days? Sincerely says, you wrote here that you've lent her $3,500 these past few months. That's a crazy amount to borrow from a friend. I'm a hopeless romantic and want to see the best, but the fact that you've just been friends for years, she told you she wasn't interested in you before, and now that you've lent her $3,500, she wants you, I think it's clear what her motives are. OP says it was $2,000 last year and $1,500  2 months ago, $3,500 all up, but she hasn't paid any of it back yet. The $2K, I just told her not to worry about. She's just sort of gotten back on her feet after struggling the previous 2 months. My take on this one? I don't know, it's like watching a house fire from a distance and knowing there's not really much you can do about this because the house fire's already made its mind up, and 2 plus 2 is 5. And in the past, 2 plus 2 was 4, but now that new information has come into play, it's actually 5, and you guys just don't understand maths like I do. Or sorry, the burning house fire does. My mistake. I was not the one to write this story. I think OP is the kind of guy to believe that strippers are actually really in love with him, and that the strippers actually see something different in him than everyone else that comes to the club and pays for their services. He is just built different. If he was in the Titan submersible when it imploded and it was on the bottom of the ocean floor for a week, he would have been like the 0.1% that escapes somehow, some way, and makes it back up to the surface and miraculously survives. That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from this guy. So I can't wait to see this crash and burn personally. And now, on to the update. Well, since she told me she didn't want me many years ago, it's not like I've been lusting after her, but the feelings were still there. I know that everyone told me that it was a bad idea, but I had to try. I took everyone's advice and made sure that I didn't pay for anything that was extravagant or over the top. Anyway, last week we went on 2 dates. We did the whole dinner and a movie thing, and we also went to the museum. Earlier this week we went to a play, which sucked, got some food, after which we had sex, which has been a long time coming, that's what he said. All was good. Great, actually. Yesterday I went over to her house to bring her lunch. I knew she was home. I picked up some Chinese food and drove to her apartment. I have the spare key to her place, so I opened the door and went in, and see her fucking some guy on the couch. Couch, oh no. We made eye contact, and then I just walked out. She called me like an hour later and told me that we weren't exclusive, and that if I didn't want her to be with other guys, then that's fine, but I needed to tell her in advance. I told her to get fucked. I don't have time for bullshit like that. So that was fun. In the comments, Hanasuki says, honestly, OP, if you didn't try this, you probably would be thinking, what if, and regret not trying. I know it hurts, but now you know for sure. OP says, yeah, I know. It just sucks because I thought we were in a really good place. The Fireflies says, here's the thing. If you hadn't had the we're exclusive conversation, her sleeping with or dating other people is fair game. That tends to be how things work. That being said, since she was the one who expressed interest in you, I think you made the right call. If she was really invested in making this work, and it wasn't about the money, she wouldn't have been so keen on fucking another guy. If she really wanted you, and since you've been friends for years, didn't need to do the whole getting to know you thing, she would have acted like it. OP replies, If she was really invested in making this work, and it wasn't about the money, then she wouldn't have been so keen on fucking another guy. Why did OP just repeat what they said? What's going on? She Sins says, I personally have never done this, but I've had it done to me. Did you guys have a conversation about where you wanted it to go? And OP says, not specifically, but when she told me that she had feelings for me, she said, I want us to be together. I thought that was pretty self-explanatory. So, if you weren't exclusive or serious, then why did you have a key to her place? OP says, it's not like she had a key cut specifically for me. She gave me the spare key to her place ages ago. I don't know why the idea of giving your spare key to a friend in case you get locked out is so foreign to everyone. Yeah, I took it home and I ate it all. It was pretty good, but I ate way too much. Spectrum says, dude, having a spare key that you can use in case your friend gets locked out is fine. Inviting yourself over without so much as a call or a text and letting yourself in with said spare key without ringing the doorbell? Come on, that's live-in boyfriend territory and you're only a few dates in. I'm not saying that you should have dated the girl in the first place, but yeah, you were clearly way farther into this relationship than you had any rational encouragement to be. I think it depends on the level of friendship. I have a friend who has an open door policy. If he's home, you're welcome to just walk right in. We have no idea how often he used this spare key when visiting her, but I would guess often since he doesn't think it's weird. OP says, that's pretty much it. When I came over, as a friend, I never had to tell her. I would just come over. I've certainly never walked in on her with another guy before. Generally, if I knew she was seeing someone, I would give her space and not come over. Sudden Real says, OP, she didn't like me when I didn't have money, but now that I have money, she likes me, but I don't know if she's a gold digger. She dated a very rich guy a while back. Come on, man, that's your answer right there. Why are we still talking about this? As for the update, people are actually pulling up the whole, oh, you didn't have that talk yet bullshit? Call me old-fashioned, but if you want a relationship, you need to put in some effort, and that includes not fucking other people. Right? I'm from Middle Europe where dating means exclusive, if not specified different, for example, open relationship. From the very first date, if successful. This exclusive talk is so crazy to me. I know it's a sign of the times of modern dating, but to me, if you're dating, it's assumed that it's exclusive. And there were so many warning signs with this woman, and everyone yelled at OP not to get involved with her, that it's hard not to feel like I'm victim blaming here, but I'm not gonna do that, OP. You deserve better. Like you deserved a better woman than this one that you decided to date. I think the fact that you've never walked in on her having sex with someone before, and now you have walked in on her when you're at a point where you feel like you are genuinely dating this woman, that is a betrayal from her end. She did not view the relationship the same way that you did. I'm of the opinion that the exclusivity goes without saying, and she did not see you guys as exclusive. She did not care. She is still trying to mend the bridge and be like, okay, we can be exclusive from this point forward. It just all seems like bullshit. It's like, why would you want to be with this person? They didn't respect you. They didn't respect the relationship for what it was. Now they're trying to take you for even more of a ride. I know that there's no more updates or anything else from this point, but if it were me in this situation, I'd just do what OP did. Tell her to get fucked. I don't have time for this bullshit. I'll see you later. Have a good time without me, with your mate on the couch. King shit, OP. Wear that crown proudly now that you hopefully have some more respect for yourself, because you certainly showed us you now have a spine. Good job. Thank you for the story. Thank you for the update. I turned to my husband for support after some bad news. He pointed out a blemish on my face in response. Is this a big enough straw to break the camel's back? We've been through a lot together. We met in college nearly 15 years ago, were long distance for a little while after graduation, and then we moved overseas together and back again. We now own a house, have some pets, are both gainfully employed, and have a wonderful time together. We're great together when times are good. We've been married for 7 years. The problem is that he's a really awful communicator while I'm very open with how I'm feeling. I wear my heart on my sleeve, while he could keep what he's feeling inside indefinitely. This has always been hard to reconcile, but our problems really started about 2 years ago when we started talking about the subject of having children. I had serious doubts about my capacity for motherhood, but he wanted to be a father. When I would talk to him about my reservations or fears, he would usually just shut down and say, "Oh, let's not have kids then." He would never be on board for a deep discussion. I decided that my fears weren't enough to be a deal breaker, so we went ahead and started trying. We've had 3 miscarriages since then. The stress of first trying to conceive and then losing our pregnancies was immense. I turned to him countless times for support, and countless times I came away feeling like he was going through the motions, but there was nothing real behind them. I know it can be hard for some to grasp the pain of losing a pregnancy, but as my partner, I feel there was a serious lack of genuine sympathy when I was struggling and in pain. He would hug me, hold me, do everything that would make it look like he was by my side in this, but never seemed to really listen when I talked about it or converse about it with any depth. This year has been hard for me. It started out promising. I was pregnant again, and I was up for a promotion at work. I lost the pregnancy in the middle of January, and even though all signs pointed to the promotion working out, the position was eliminated after I had gone through 3 rounds of interviews to get it. I found out the position was eliminated officially yesterday. When he got home from work, I asked him for a hug, but instead, he started examining the skin around my mouth. He said, "Do you have herpes or something?" I have been breaking out in that area since the last miscarriage. It's a hormonal trouble spot for acne for me, and no matter what I do, nothing stops it right after a miscarriage. My hormones are just out of whack for a couple of months. So not only was I turned down for comfort after a long couple of months trying to get this promotion and finding out that it wasn't going to happen, but he pointed out a flaw on my face that happens to be a lasting side effect of another devastating loss. At first I was angry. I demanded an apology and gave him the cold shoulder after he gave me an insincere one. Then I let go of the anger and just felt so sad. Just incredibly, hopelessly sad. I cried all night long. He finally came to me and said he was sorry in a sincere way, and we hugged for a long time. But I couldn't talk to him. I just couldn't put myself in the position of telling him what I was going through and not really knowing he was there for me. After he left for work this morning, he called me and said he realizes that he needs to work on his communication and he's going to try harder. He also said that he wants to take a trip for our 15-year dating anniversary later this year, something that I've been talking about for almost a year now, but that he never seemed interested in up until now. I am left feeling like this is all just too little too late. I suggested marriage counseling about a year ago when I felt a major disconnect between us after our first 2 losses. He said he would go, but I never followed up and looked for a counselor. Now I feel like maybe it's just too late. I feel like my trust in him is shattered. Is this something that we can fix in counseling? Will his communication ever improve? Can I get over these feelings of bitterness? In the comments, VG360 says, "Give yourself time to mourn the miscarriage and to get over the disappointment about your job. You are grieving and hormonal. This is not the time to make any decisions about your marriage. Therapy sounds like a good idea, whether you stay together or not. Don't forget, as the one who was pushing for kids, he is also likely grieving. A lot of guys bottle up that kind of grief and try to look after their partners, but it's hard. And they do end up just going through the motions without having their mental health needs catered to." Paul Shark says, "Communication is something you can fix in counseling. Quote, I am left feeling like this is all just too little too late. Only you can decide if enough is enough. He did agree to attend counseling though. Ask him if it's too late to take him up on that offer. My husband and I still deal with the disconnect between my grief and his from our miscarriages. We had a great marriage counselor who helped me to acknowledge that I hadn't properly grieved and helped him to see the deeper level of loss I felt than he did. Recently, as I am pregnant again, things have resurfaced. He shared with me that he realizes he isn't affected by our losses nearly as much as I am, and that he struggles with feeling judged and shamed. He said he himself feels so conflicted when trying to comfort me, because he wonders what's wrong with him that he doesn't need comfort himself. I share all of this to say there is a chance your husband is struggling with his own unspoken fears and feelings. I absolutely recommend marriage counseling, but also I found great help in individual counseling. I identified my own depression and found a couple of groups, a depression group for women and a grief group. My husband could not be my sole source of comfort, and he shouldn't be. When my grandma died, I sought out comfort from many people aside from my family, and doing the same for the loss of my babies should have been handled the same way. Grieve your losses as you would any other, and give your husband in marriage a little break. OP says, "Thanks for your comment. I'm sorry for your losses, and I wish you the best with your new pregnancy. I have looked for support groups, but they are very poorly attended and really infrequent. I guess I should expand beyond pregnancy loss groups. Otherwise, I have had a hard time connecting with anyone in my life about my losses. My friends have all successfully carried to term without any losses. My mother feels that it's a matter of getting the right fertility treatment. I try to connect, but no one can relate. I rarely try talking to my husband about my losses anymore. As you know, it's just about the most isolating experience that one can have." Honestly, incredibly tough situation, that one, and it doesn't seem like there is any good answer that you can give OP in this instance, besides take the advice of the comments and go get counseling with your husband. I don't think it's too little too late personally, but I'm also not in your shoes, OP, so I can't particularly say that. But he did say yes to it and you didn't follow up. I think you should give him a chance and get a session together and see how that goes. And now, on to the update. Thank you so much to everyone who commented on my original post earlier this year. We got into counseling not too long after that post and have been continuing every week ever since. We just had a session yesterday. Our counselor is wonderful. She really understands the situation and has identified the struggle that my husband faces when confronted with an uncomfortable topic, like our losses, stress at work, the decision to have children or not, and more. We have spent quite a long time discussing my husband's upbringing. His family isn't really big on communicating, and there are many problems that he and his siblings have had over the years, and continue to this day, that were never addressed and never resolved. In session, he talked about how he felt his emotional needs were never really met growing up, but that he didn't realize it up until now. It made me really sad for him. We had his parents over a few weeks ago, and as usual, the conversation remained really superficial and never delved into anything very substantial. I've tried to share with them about our life and our losses before, but there's never been any sign of interest from them in connecting with us in that way, even though his mother is one of the only people I know in my life who has suffered a loss as well. We spent the next week's session processing their visit, and unfortunately, my husband felt a lot of anger and frustration that he wasn't able to talk to them about the important stuff. However, in our relationship, things have completely transformed. We argue so much less, and he's completely present and there for me when I need his support. The topic of having children has come back up, and we're still figuring that out, but we can really talk about it and be open and honest with each other without fear and with respect and open arms for each other. He has repeatedly said that he's really happy we got into therapy and that he feels great about the state of our relationship. I'm almost happy that we've gone through such hard times so that we were able to hit rock bottom and get to this wonderful place. So thank you to everyone for your kindness and generosity in following our journey. In the comments, Think Before You Act says, "I remember your post and I was one of the commenters who didn't think that your husband could change. I'm really glad to hear that he's taken steps to improve your relationship. Keep on at it. He seemed so cold that it's a great surprise he's done such a turnaround. It sounds like he really does love you a lot. You also sound so much happier yourself." OP says, "In that post, I glossed over his positive attributes to best convey my frustration at the situation, so he comes off as a cold, uncaring jerk. That's not who he is at heart, but how could you know that based on my short anecdote? And selfishly, it was validating to hear others agree with me that enough was enough. I still thank you for reading and giving your input. The Kitten Patrol says, I'm shocked to be honest. I was reading the whole first post going, this is who you want to have kids with? But this is a 5-month later update, not the normal, it's been a few weeks and we've had counseling and it's so much better already. So it feels like real growth and actually a thing likely to continue improving. I wish both OP and her husband luck. Also, if they do have kids, I feel way more hope that it will be a healthy environment for the kids to grow up in. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I do think they've done a lot of work, there is a lot more work to go, but this is a very good update. I don't think OP should come back to share more of the story. I feel like just work on maintaining the relationship as it is, improving in the ways that have already worked, and trying not to fall too far back if and when there are more problems that come up in the future. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update, OP. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Pasta Error, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for telling my dad and his fiancée how I really feel, sending my dad into a deep depression? I, 18 male, am an only child. I live with my mum full-time, my parents are divorced. For some quick context, during my entire life, my mum always picked up after me and my dad. They both worked full-time, but my mum handled breakfast, lunch, dinner, groceries, cleaning, and laundry. What did my dad do? He would mow the lawn, shovel snow, fix things like the sink if it ever broke. When I was younger, I always loved my dad because he would do fun things with me, like take me to sports games, play with me in the yard sometimes, buy me McDonald's or ice cream. He was the fun parent and my mum was the caring one. She always made me food, helped me in school, packed my bags, comforted me when I was sad, and took care of me when I was sick. When I got older, I started to realize more and more how much my mum did, while my dad would sit on the couch and watch TV or stuff like that. My mum asked me when I was quite young to help her out with cleaning, etc., and I remember I would get mad when she asked. I didn't want to clean. Who does? But one day after she had gotten annoyed that I didn't even pick up after myself, I yelled at her to leave me alone. I was probably like 12, and that day I heard her cry in the bathroom afterwards. When I realized I made her cry, it clicked in my head that she was doing everything for us and my dad barely did anything. And I did absolutely nothing at all. It felt like I grew up super quickly over the course of a week and I started helping my mum a lot more. It became a bonding thing for us, talking and helping each other out with cleaning and groceries, etc. My dad was still like the fun parent, would take me to games and all that, but I grew more and more annoyed that he didn't help out at all. I think when I was like 14, I once said to his face that he never helps out around the house, and he got furious with me. He yelled in my face and sent me to my room. My mum comforted me and told me to just let him be. You and I got this alone anyway. The few times he was dragged into helping, he would always make a mess somehow, and it would end in an argument with him and mum. I've realized now he most likely did a bad job on purpose so we wouldn't ask him for help. When I was 15, mum found out that dad had cheated. He had been for like a year. They had the biggest fight ever, and my dad left us that night to live with his mistress and her daughter from a previous marriage. He came a few days after and picked up most of his stuff. I don't remember much how the divorce went, other than my mum being a wreck. When it was finalized, she honestly broke down even more. I fed her, helped her into the shower, held her at night. I've never seen her that bad, and if I didn't hate my dad for what he had done in general, I started absolutely despising him for what he did to mum. Family from mum's side would help us too, but it was mostly me since no one could really move in and stay with us full time. I picked up a job at 16 to help at home. It took my mum maybe half a year to start going back to her old self. She grew up to be better, happier, and I'd never seen her so full of life when she was with dad. A month or two after the divorce was over, my dad started pushing for me to live with him 50% of the time. I told him to fuck off basically, but mum said that I shouldn't shut him out completely. So I went to him every other weekend. He tried to be all nice to me and so did his mistress, but I hated their guts. The mistress, let's call her Hannah, tried to be nice to me but also bossed me around, and I basically ignored her. She has a daughter from a previous marriage who tried to bond with me, but I ignored her too. Barely even a year after the divorce was over, Hannah got pregnant and they had another daughter. Dad and Hannah have tried to push for me to be a big brother for them, but I couldn't care less about them. Now I'm 18 and I gradually stopped going to my dad's. I barely ever stay a night. I just visit, and my dad keeps trying to blame my mum for it. Hannah gives me more and more attitude and tries to use her daughters to guilt me into staying over, saying they miss their big brother, you're so selfish. We had a big confrontation when I visited last. I stayed for 20 minutes before Hannah started trying to lecture me, so I just started leaving. Dad blocked my way and told me that I have to grow up and leave the past in the past. He said I can't be mad forever and I'm acting as if I don't love him and we're all family. That just set me off. I started screaming at him that I haven't loved him in years. I told him that he was always a lazy piece of shit who acted more like a child than a husband to Mum. She always cleaned up after him, cleaned the house alone, washed his clothes, made him food, fetched him another beer even though the kitchen was 5 steps away, but all that ever came out of his mouth was complaints and demands. I told him that he took me out to do fun things, sure, but that's not all there is to being a dad. He was never there for me, helped me in school, drove me anywhere or picked me up, comforted me, and then he did the worst thing possible. After years of standing on my mother's back and using her, he went and fucked a random woman and absolutely broke her. I'm referring to my mum. I screamed about how a kid had to pick up the pieces of his own mother because his father was such a piece of shit and useless garbage. I felt nothing for him. In fact, I hated his guts still, and I hated his mistress too. I turned to Hannah and told her that she means nothing to me, she has no authority over me, I don't give a shit about her or her kids. I told them both that I wish nothing bad at their daughters, but Hannah is a horrible person for filling her kids' heads with lies about how I'm their brother when I've repeatedly told them that I'm not. Then I looked my dad in the eyes and said, my father died to me years ago, and that man wasn't even a good dad. You're just a stranger to me. I pushed my way past him and I left. When I got home, I told my mum everything and cried. She hugged me and told me she understands my emotions, but wishes I wasn't so aggressive for my own sake. My mum has never said a bad thing about my dad, despite everything, and when I would curse him out, she always told me it wasn't worth it. My dad and his new family was silent for a few days, but then Hannah started bombarding me with texts about how I was a horrible person and how my dad hasn't stopped crying since. I know he always wanted a son and wanted a close bond, but he's failed me as a father and I don't care. But family from Hannah's side, that I've met like once or not at all, have also started messaging saying that I was out of line and everyone makes mistakes. But I don't think it is a mistake. I genuinely think my dad is a piece of shit and I don't owe him anything. But I guess all the hate from so many people has me doubting myself. Maybe I should have just left without a word. So yeah, am I the asshole here? In the comments, Different Leg says, not the asshole, OP. Your father created this mess and now he has to live with the consequences of his actions. I would block numbers of everyone who is supporting him as you don't need their negativity. I would also suggest counseling of some sort. Not for anyone else, but yourself. And I would tell his side piece and her flying monkeys that any further harassment from them will lead to you seeking a restraining order. Go no contact. He's a piece of shit you don't need to waste time on. Exactly. It's not your fault that the honest truth hurts him so much. Your dad can cry a river, but it won't change the fact that he was a terrible father and husband. And maybe he should be crying with shame. Not the asshole. You are not responsible for his feelings, but as a parent, he sure as shit is responsible for yours. Maybe you shouldn't have raised your voice, but it sounds like he never would have heard you otherwise. These are the consequences of his own actions. He's shown you how not to be a man. Take those lessons and build something better. I would encourage you not to cut off your little sisters completely, if only to show them that they can strive for better themselves. But maybe approach it in a way of, maybe you take them to the park, a movie, or ice cream every couple weeks, but make it clear that you're only there for them, not your useless father and his home-wrecking Hua. But you are not responsible for the two jackasses' feelings or to appease their guilt. You're also not responsible for their children and are not obligated to be in their lives if you don't want to. However, you've seen how he's failed as a father and had to deal with the fallout of that yourself. I'm sure you've wished that there was some way to soften that blow for yourself. Maybe you can soften the blow for them when they're eventually let down by him. Oh, and block all of her family. They are nothing to do, and clearly are lunatics if they think it's acceptable to message a barely adult about family dynamics that they have no part of. Sorry, I'm old. You seem like a good kid with a good head on his shoulders, but 18 is still very young. Take what is helpful here and leave the rest. Good luck, kiddo, and keep your chin up. I agree with everything there, and it's always funny to me, and it's very much a sign that the other party is in the wrong when they have to launch the flying monkeys. They have to send the whole circus OP's way to try and convince them that having boundaries is actually not acceptable, and you need to do and say everything that the bad party here wants you to do, because it's your job. You're supposed to be a doormat. I love that OP had that outburst at him. It was a long time coming. His dad very much deserved it, and screw him. He ruined his relationship and his marriage. He's getting everything he deserves, not the asshole OP. And now, onto the update. I know it hasn't been long since I posted, but I quickly got so many not the assholes and people who agreed with me that I acted pretty fast. I wrote out a long text to my dad that looks like this. Hey Dad, I know what I said yesterday was very harsh, but I'm not apologizing for it. Growing up, you made it clear what a partner and husband shouldn't be. Even though Mum and you worked the same hours, you were always entitled to your alone time and your rest while she was left to pick up after the whole family. I realized at a young age that Mum needed help, and every time I picked up your old socks or put your dishes away, I got more and more annoyed at what a lazy piece of shit you are. A 12-year-old did more housework than his father. Let that sink in. You went and did fun things with me. I acknowledge and did appreciate that, but that's not all there is to be a parent. I needed you other times, when I was sick, sad, stressed, needed help with homework, or even just talking to you. I know you always wanted a good father and son bond, but we never actually talked. Not small talk, proper conversations. I honestly felt like you don't even know who I truly am. But when I went with you anyway, you told me to go to Mum because you had a long day at work. I hope for your new daughter's sake that you start picking up your shit after yourself. I can't stand Hannah, but I somehow also hope that she doesn't get stuck in the loop of scrubbing your back and holding your spoon when you eat, never allowed to ask for a favor and rest. You need to tell her to get her family to stop harassing me about this, or I'm blocking all of you included. Hannah has no authority over me, and I have no respect for her because she slept with a married man. She also is not entitled to a relationship with me. I've always tried to be polite, but not welcoming, because I don't see her as anything other than your mistress. She needs to get that through her head. And like I said, I will never wish anything bad onto her daughters, but I am not their family. You filling their head with that bullshit is only causing them harm. Get that through your head. If you're unhappy in your marriage, you either try to work it out, go to therapy, or split on whatever terms. You don't cheat on your partner like a scumbag. It doesn't matter how you felt for Hannah and Mum at the time, you should have split with Mum before pursuing Hannah. I'm fucking 18 years old and even I know that. If the texts don't stop today, I'm blocking every last one of you. I'm already blocking Hannah's family, but I'm keeping you and her unblocked for whatever reason. This is not me forgiving you. I don't think we can work through this, because we can't. I'm not visiting you for a while, and if I ever want to again, it will be on my own terms. This is not up for negotiation, and again, if you try to pressure me or guilt trip me, I will literally just never speak to you again. I hope you go to therapy and get fully torn down so you can build yourself up to be someone worthy of respect. Because right now, you're not. Now leave me alone. After like 3 or 4 hours, Dad responded, "I understand," and nothing else. The random texts have stopped. I don't know. I feel sort of free, but also sad. I'm not burning the bridge fully, but I'm also done with their bullshit. So yeah, that's where I stand right now. Thanks for listening. In the comments, OK Midnight says, "You're doing what's right for you, not the asshole, and I'm proud of you. You're not responsible for how they react, only how you stand up for yourself. You've done that, and you deserve to be proud of your strength. Seriously, sometimes doing what's right for you feels heavy, but it's still the right move. Cutting through the guilt and setting boundaries takes guts. OP handled it like a pro. Healing isn't always pretty, but this is definitely a step towards peace. Honestly, OP, the way that you were able to articulate your feelings and thoughts so clearly and handle this situation while being freshly 18 is impressive. You showed more maturity than both adults, your cheating father and his home wrecker of a wife. You'll be okay without them from now on. I don't worry for you. It's time for you and your mum to enjoy some happiness too. You have a lot of beautiful things coming ahead. Your father, his mistress, and their failing family and marriage is not your issue to worry about anymore. Best of luck and take care of you." He shows incredible maturity because he was forced to grow up at far too young of an age. 12 years old, this poor kid was forced to realize his father was a piece of shit, and if there was going to be someone for his mother to rely on and not be sad, it had to be him. 12 years old, and he took on the emotional and physical burden of a husband or man of the house. The absolutely enormous burden he took on would make almost anyone into a very thoughtful, mature person for their age. It's so unfair, and I hope that otherwise, OP had a great childhood with his mother to make up for it. My guy deserves only the best. Absolutely, OP. You've done everything right here. You have a solidly titanium spine. I can't fault anything you've done. You are the standout example for what you need to do when faced with a deadbeat parent that is trying to bully you and using everyone around him to bully you as well to get what they want. That behavior is absolutely unacceptable, and I don't blame you in the slightest for cutting him off. If you ever do want a relationship with him in the future, I don't blame you for wanting that either, but definitely for now, give it some time. And if you ever want to, I urge you to let us know in the future how that goes. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update. Our next post is by a deleted account, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for not wanting to be disinvited from a trip I planned? I, 27 female, planned a ski trip with my boyfriend, 29 male, and some of our friends. Mostly his friends. We booked in advance. Told them about it, let them know they could come or not. We planned on bringing our computers to have a LAN party while we were there. My boyfriend and I gamed together, once a few people wanted to go. We were really excited. Recently, I learned as we arrived at someone's house to watch a game together as a group that I am not invited on the trip any longer because one of his friend's girlfriends wouldn't come due to work, and now it's going to be a guy's trip. I feel pretty hurt. I got upset and asked them what right they had to disinvite me from a trip that I planned and to basically make it no women allowed for some odd reason. We plan things all the time, and I attend. We share the same interests a lot of the time, so I'm confused and bothered by the implication that I'd be distracting, in the way, or make it less fun. They brushed it off. So they are going now, without me or anyone else with a vagina, I guess. My boyfriend feels torn. He's kind of a people pleaser and doesn't want to make waves. His friends say weird shit about women, and then say they're joking, but this makes me feel like they actually meant those things, and don't even think of me as a friend. Straw/back situation, as some other things have happened that were similar, but I brushed it off as my understanding at the time. Instead of also being their friend, I'm just their friend's girlfriend, which really hurts because I've really been there for a lot of these guys and gone out of my way for them. For example, one of them projectile vomited in a bathroom at a friend's house everywhere and got embarrassed and didn't know how to clean it while drunk, so I cleaned it up for them. I've hosted at my house and always tried to make it fun. I don't understand. I told them that it was fucked up and I planned the trip, so they don't get to decide that. They basically acted like I was being emotional and just needed to get over it. I have refused to talk to some of them since then. Everyone's acting like I don't want them to go and do things, just the guys, and I'm being controlling. The narrative has been lost among our friends, and I'm being painted as a villain compared to other women who are going, who are cool with it. When actually, I don't give a shit. They go out all the time for guys' nights and guys' trips. I just want to enjoy the trip I planned, regardless of being a girl or not. I don't think telling them that I'm coming anyway would even do anything. I can't imagine going now, with how they clearly feel. That would be really awkward probably, but it's created a rift between my dude and his friends, and they are telling him that I'm being unreasonable and overreacting, and he's talking about not going and is really pissed at them, but doesn't want to ruin the friend group dynamic. I know I can just plan something else, but this sucks. Am I the asshole? In the comments, Punk Rock PM says, "Holy fuckballs, DTMFA and find a quality guy. I hope you haven't paid anything into this trip, and if you did, can you get it back? Did you make all the hotel arrangements, etc.? Cancel them. Maybe tell them that they are now uninvited from your trip. Nothing to understand here. It's them, not you. They sound like they are 12 selfish assholes. Stop making excuses for your boyfriend. He's a people pleaser? I'd think he'd want to please his girlfriend the most. And these other guys? Oh yes, they mean those comments. Trust me. And they do know how to clean up their own puke. Dump these guys already." Very Big Poro says, "Cancel everything you can that you've paid for, but don't tell them. They uninvited you, so it's logical that you cancel the bookings. This, absolutely don't tell them. They uninvite you, they can deal with all of the consequences of uninviting you. Fun fact, these misogynists are not your friends, and your boyfriend being a complacent people pleaser is a massive red flag. Not the asshole, run away." Interestingly, the people he wants to please don't include his girlfriend. Yeah, funny one that. I would take huge offense to being uninvited from the trip that I planned and not supported by my partner, who was benefiting from the trip, and not having him pushing back against the whole group going, "Hey guys, it's actually really messed up that you did this and butted in on my girlfriend's holiday like that. That's not gonna fly." But instead he's like, "Go on right ahead, walk all over me, walk all over my girlfriend. I'm enjoying this. I really like when you guys do this actually." I don't think OP should continue being in a relationship with this guy if he can so willfully disrespect her like that. And now, on to the update. Holy shit, I was not really even expecting any replies. I've been working a lot and just checked back in on this. I am totally overwhelmed by the support in this community. I really did expect to be the asshole in this situation. I'm reading through everything and really trying not to cry. I'll try to respond if I can. I realize the amount of people who actually see me as a friend has dropped drastically. Or it was always that way, and I'm just now seeing it. I feel much sadder about that than a stupid trip. The trip is just the piss icing on the shit cake. I'm not going to dump my boyfriend. He deserves the time to try to talk to his friends and see if things can change. I've rescued myself from their friend group entirely at this point. He has said that if they continue to behave that way, that he will look for new friends. I believe him. I've had some shitty friends myself, as I was formerly part of a pretty terrible online community similar to Kiwi Farms. I just grew out of it when I realized, oh, they aren't kidding or trolling or whatever, they're just miserable assholes. Some of them changed though, and decided not to be shitheads. That's why we have kind of a frog in a boiling water situation. It feels so common to me because of the places that I grew up in and the online communities that I was a part of. I regret ever being a part of anything like that. I was just a lonely, depressed, and angry younger person. Even women can be radicalized in spaces meant to other men. I just understand, I guess. And I still miss those friends and wish they could let go of their hatefulness. I cancelled anything that I planned for the trip. I got my deposits back, so no harm done there. He's still going with them to see if their friendship can be salvaged. We are planning a private trip for just the two of us afterwards. Thank you all so much for responding and taking the time and for the advice. I feel very lonely for real friends, but at least I know now where I stand. In the comments, this is quite possibly the worst update ever. He still went on the trip without you to salvage a friendship with people who clearly hate you, and you're gonna give him another chance? OP replies, the thing is, it became a friends trip for just them. I didn't want him to be the only person not there if those friendships were salvageable. I lost most of my good friends that I grew up with to drugs, the oil field, car accidents, suicide, and homicide. And then I moved away from the rest. I didn't want to put him through something similar or give an ultimatum. He has since stopped talking to most of them because they were being a bunch of see you next Tuesdays apparently. He plays games online with a handful, but the rest have been sloughed off in the past few weeks. They became more and more vocal and argumentative. So he sees how things really were. I think if I had reacted too strongly after the fact, he might have been taken in by their bullshit. Texas sucks, and I can't wait to move. And now, onto the final update. I thought they didn't care that I cancelled everything, but I found out they were actually really pissed because of how close it was to the trip dates compared to when I originally booked. They had to pay a lot more, had to split multiple thousands between them, adding up to an additional hundreds of dollars extra each at the last minute. They all hate me now, but I don't care at all. Guys, if you're reading this and recognize that it's you, stop grabbing women in nightclubs and pretending you don't understand that is sexual assault. Stop talking shit about the women who are nice enough to fuck you. Cottage cheese thighs, I think she's hotter since she started taking pills. You're scum. Stop judging our bodies while you're covered in dark, ingrown hairs, a receding hairline, and are insecure because you used to be short and then had steroid shots. It isn't our job to make you feel good about yourself while you trash us. Stop pretending to like people and then trash talking them to others. Guess what? People talk. I know it all. Everything you said has come out. Stop pushing drinks on people that don't want them. Stop reminiscing about former flings and sexual escapades in front of people's spouses and girlfriends. Stop inviting people's ex-girlfriends around to start drama. Stop worshipping men who hate women. Stop saying women are emotional when men can't control their anger as a whole. You want to talk about self-control? Try it out yourself. Stop thinking you are good people. My dude doesn't even like you all anymore because you proved that it was never jokes. You almost convinced him that I was too sensitive and couldn't take a joke. I hope you enjoyed your ski trip. I hope it was worth his friendship. You lost the best person you could have had in your lives just because you think being an asshole is attractive. I just wanted to be your friend. Thanks for manipulating, gaslighting, and abandoning me instead. In the comments, Gigi Lily says, I'm curious about whether the other straws were things she was aware of, or if she found out recently because I was expecting it to be stupid jokes they made versus grabbing women in clubs and trying to force people to drink. This feels like a situation where she left because she realized she was not the exception to their fuckery versus realizing, hey, these people and her boyfriend are not good people. I'm glad she cancelled the reservations, but that ending makes me think she hadn't outgrown the miserable people stage as much as she thought she had. Exactly my read. She kept almost getting it, and then saying something like, I just wanted to be your friend, after listing a bunch of things that no one should stand for in their friends, like all the jokes about women that they'd been making all along. So, am I way off base here for wondering why OP was, at the very least, tolerant of all that shitty behavior up until they turned on her, but in reality, she was very caring towards them, and curious how long she and her boyfriend would have stayed bros with them had they not tried to pull a fast one on her, and confused why she thinks her and her boyfriend are the good guys. This has huge, you didn't break up with me, I broke up with you vibes. Like if they hadn't disinvited her on her own trip, she and her boyfriend would have just kept hanging out with them. The only reason she's actually pissed is that they don't view her as an actual friend. Why the hell would you want to be friends with those people anyway? Oh, absolutely. What they did to random girls at the clubs was much worse than what they did to her with the trip thing. And that was okay because they were doing it to other women and not her. Anyone who associates with these pigs doesn't have much of a moral high ground either. And if she really did know that they were like this, I can't sympathize with her much. There's a few sayings that are reminiscent of situations like this. If you go into a bar full of armband-wearing people, and there's some people that don't wear those armbands, but they're cool with them, then really you have a whole bar of armband-wearing people, don't you? And maybe OP is the bird of the feather that flocks together with these people and hasn't grown up as much as she thought she did. Because condoning and kind of still caring for those people after all that time, knowing what they were doing to other women and still staying with your boyfriend and not really addressing it until you were othered, I don't know. It's a hard one. It makes me feel less sympathy for OP, that's for sure. I'm sorry you had to go through all of that, OP, but I hope you learn not to associate with people like this and to find a better crowd in the future that won't screw you over. Thank you for the story and thank you for the updates. Am I the asshole here for not letting my ex-husband and one of his future stepkids come inside? Our custody arrangement is for each of us to pick the kids up on our day during our 2-hour pickup window. He arrived at the house, and I already had the boys ready. I saw his car pull into the driveway on my camera, so the boys were already halfway to the door when my ex knocks. I open the door, and he's holding the hand of a 4-year-old. He asks to come in and says his fiance's son needs to use the bathroom. I told him I don't want him to come inside because I don't feel comfortable with him in my house. He has a history of snooping through my things. He asked me to take his future stepson to the bathroom, and I said I was uncomfortable with the situation. He said his stepson needed to pee. I suggested the McDonald's up the road, and he said my bathroom would be way cleaner than a McDonald's. At this point, my 11-year-old started pestering his dad to stop so they could leave. My ex said, "Your brother needs to use the bathroom." My son said, "I'll take him." My ex said, "No, your mother would rather he pee his pants. We'll go, and hopefully we'll get to the McDonald's in time." My ex and the boys left. He messaged me after saying that I was cruel to a child to punish him, and that's not okay. He said that I made us both look bad in front of our kids and should be embarrassed of my actions. I've been fighting with him for so long that my perspective is screwed up. Was I in the wrong? In the comments, not the asshole. He wanted to snoop. This was obvious after he rejected your son's offer to take the kid to the bathroom. Sneaky, isn't he? OP says, always has been. He's an intelligent man. Intelligent, but predictable. Nothing good can come of that. He's setting you up for a no-win situation. Think to yourself, nice try, and move on. I'm sorry for what you're dealing with. Okay, so I like to ask my husband these scenarios and get his 2 cents. He seems to think because you stated you've had multiple problems with the ex, that this was more about control. He wanted you to do what he said. Was the boy hurting and crying because he had to go? If not, my spouse thinks that it was a power play by your ex. If it were me, I would have asked my son to take him and told the ex to go wait in his car. But if this douche just likes to jerk you around, then not the asshole. I'm with your husband. I think the ex was using the 4-year-old to manipulate his way into violating OP's very necessary boundary. The only distress was the ex's when his ploy didn't work. OP says, he was holding my ex's hand and kind of looking around. He didn't say anything. Well, your son did actually offer to take the kid to the bathroom and your ex declined. Sounds like a power play to me. You can remind him that he's not welcome into your house unless it's life or limb. and he needs to organize himself properly before he arrives. If the kid needed to pee, the ex could have stopped prior to arriving at his ex's. He knows the relationship is strained. Good lord, he has a 2-hour window. My ex and I, 6 p.m., the end. It's a little boy. He can basically pee anywhere. Point and shoot. Like, my 4-year-old had 3 side-of-the-road pee breaks today. We stopped for multiple bathroom breaks on the 3-hour drive, but of course, peeing off the road is cooler. Reminded me of my nephew. We caught him peeing on his dad's car tire, and when asked what he's doing, he replied that he's watering the car so that it could grow up to be a bus. Cool as a cucumber, 4-year-old. I love the creativity, that's so funny. But yeah, I don't think OP's the asshole for not letting her ex-husband in. It became obvious what he was up to as she started offering more alternate ways to go about this situation than letting him in the house. I love that he comes and lays it on thick afterwards by messaging her and saying, "You were cruel to a child to punish him. That's not okay. You're a messed up person. You made us both look bad in front of our kids. You should be embarrassed." Bro, holy overreaction, Batman. What is wrong with this guy? He is making a Mount Everest out of a molehill. Like, not even a mountain. He is digging deep to emotionally wound her over nothing. This is a man that is not over his ex. This is a man that is looking to continuously attack her any avenue that he can, any way possible. When he doesn't get his way, ooh, that's a man scorned right there. He's gonna get his pound of flesh one way or the other. And look, yeah, you've been fighting with him for so long, your perspective is screwed up. I get that. You've been fighting him for so long that you know when he's being a piece of shit, is what I'm picking up here. Your bullshit detector goes off every time he's in your vicinity. You're not in the wrong for that. He's done nothing but hurt you. And now, onto the update. I did talk to my lawyer about what happened. He said we can address it at the hearing that we already have scheduled about the movie situation. I thought that was that, but of course it was my turn to pick up the kids today. When I arrived at my ex's place, he opened the door very wide and invited me in. I was suspicious and said no thank you. He kept insisting I come in so we can show the kids we are civil, but I had a bad feeling. I said I would just wait in the car for the boys to come out. I got in my car and texted my oldest son that I was there. A short while later, he texted me back saying his dad said they couldn't leave unless I got them. I went back to the door and knocked again. Again, my ex invited me inside. I said I didn't want to come in, and that was when my boys showed up. My ex's fiancé was right behind them, telling them to come back upstairs. They ran to me, and we left. I don't know what his game is, but I'm not falling for it, whatever it is. In the comments, not the arsehole. He was way too insistent for you to come in and then refusing to let your kids leave? No. Always follow your gut, especially when the spider is so persistent in inviting the fly into the parlor. For real, something was definitely off with how pushy he was. Like, bro, it's not a horror movie. She's not walking in that house. OP, I truly cannot emphasize this more. Document like crazy. I don't know if this is going to turn into them yelling or scolding you for some made-up bullshit or something, but regardless, you need to let your lawyer know. Good luck, cause things with this psychopath are not going to get better soon. Plus, besides documenting, if she lives in a one-party consent state, she can record via her cell phone video or a GoPro their interactions to show in court what's happening, plus the recording can just be audio done in a similar fashion. There's no reason for him to come into her home, and for her safety, she shouldn't enter his. Personally, I'd say as he opened the door that I'm recording pickups from now on. Please explain why you refuse to let my children leave your house until I come inside. Can people just be normal? What is this stupid game that he is playing with the kids? It really just sounds like a setup to murder her or something like that. It's like, no, the kids are waiting for you upstairs, and we're not going ahead until you go upstairs in my house and I lock the door behind you. That just makes my skin crawl. That's just not a normal or okay thing to do, and this guy doesn't sound mentally sane. I'm gonna be completely honest, if I was in her shoes, I would be recording everything going forward, bringing it all to my lawyer and being like, if he's not going to play ball, I'm going to go for more custody of these kids. If I can't trust my own safety around him, I can't trust my kids' safety. He has had so many chances to be normal, and he refuses to be. So I'm not going to play ball. Maybe I'm an asshole for doing that, but I don't care. My safety and my kids' safety is of utmost importance in a situation like this. Who the hell does he think he is, playing games like that? He's an asshole. Am I the asshole for requesting a doctor that is more fluent in my language? Important background info: I'm autistic and have ADHD. Due to this, I have some problems with auditory processing, aka, I hear just fine, but sometimes my brain just refuses to process the information. It feels like you're being spoken to in a language that you didn't speak. My APD, auditory processing disorder, acts up more with certain ways of speaking. For example, stuttering or unusual speaking rhythms are very hard for me to understand. The problem arose when I got a new psychiatrist. He's not native to my country, which I don't have a problem with, but he doesn't speak my native language very well. I've seen him once now, and it was a disaster. I understood maybe half of what he was saying. My brain just short-circuited, and the whole time I felt like I was an idiot asking, "Sorry, could you repeat slower? And could I get that in writing?" the whole hour. We got nothing done, and it left me almost crying and having trouble speaking myself. ASD messing with my whole language processing. I went straight to the receptionist and I told the lady I would like to request a new doctor. She asked me why, and I told her that I couldn't understand the one that I'd been given. She checks my info and just huffs. She, in a very cold tone, says, "I can understand him just fine. We don't let patients pick their doctors on racial bias." I am just shocked. I didn't even consider him being not white. This is a very white country, I might add. I already am really anxious, so I start crying and say that I just can't continue seeing him over and over again. People are looking at us, I can't help it, and the lady is getting more annoyed with me. She says there's nothing she can do for me, and that it's a very big asshole move of me to make such a scene, and that she won't be helping me anymore. She didn't use those words, but I can't remember exactly what she said. I went to the bathroom to finish crying, and I called my mum. She agreed that I should get transferred to another doctor, but that it's my fault for not being clear on my reasons. I later got an email from my doctor that he is sad that I feel like I can't work with someone like him, but at this moment, I could not be transferred. He expressed that I had hurt him and that I was in the wrong. Now I'm wondering if I really am the arsehole. In the comments, not the arsehole. For something like psychiatry, it is very important for doctor and client to be able to communicate clearly. Doubly so in your case because of your condition. In the United States, the magic words for your request are, "I have a disability that makes it difficult for me to understand certain kinds of spoken language. I would like to request a reasonable accommodation for that disability." This right here. Don't let the receptionist shame you for being an advocate for yourself. With any condition, it's important to feel comfortable with your doctor and to be able to comfortably communicate. I can understand maybe why the receptionist might have jumped to the racial thing, but it wasn't her place to just call you out like that with no information. It wasn't racially motivated, and she just jumped straight to that and spurted it out in public. Again, please don't let others make you feel guilty or shamed for advocating for your own health. No assholes here, but you should have been clear when you asked to switch. It would have absolutely sounded to this woman like race was a factor, and you did nothing to contradict that. A simple, "I have APD and require a doctor who has as little an accent as possible," would have made things clearer. It's not this lady's fault for assuming the most obvious thing. OP says, "After I calmed down, I thought about this, and my mum said this as well, but I can't help feeling like she was unreasonably mean to me. I was already visibly upset and almost crying when I went to the reception, and what I said, if translated more like word to word, was, 'I cannot understand my doctor's way of speaking. I don't think I was being rude, but I can't be sure, as I'm not good at recognizing those kinds of tones, etc. I'll probably email my doctor to explain since he's a specialist in my conditions and will maybe understand better. Blue Jay Fisher replies, I think the biggest issue for you here is that you went to speak to the receptionist already upset. If all the receptionist had to do was insinuate there was a racist motive for you to start crying and become unable to have a conversation, then you were too upset to be having that conversation at that time. Next time something like this happens, I would really suggest taking the time to calm down and to ground yourself before having to have a difficult conversation. I can't be mad at the receptionist. In this situation, 9 times out of 10, the person is just racist. Complaining about accents goes up exponentially when the person isn't white, in case you don't know. That is a common thing. So I can't blame her for assuming that, especially considering that you are unable to refute it. Emailing the doctor is a good idea. You'll be able to explain about your APD more clearly, and he should understand. Best of luck for getting a new doctor. And OP replies, I think I understand her point of view better now. In the moment, I couldn't think clearly and just wanted to have a new doctor so that I wouldn't need to experience this again. A lot went wrong with this on my side as well. I probably should have disclosed my autism so that she would have understood me better. I still felt really bad after the whole thing, as I didn't understand at all why things happened the way they did. Also, her suggestion of racial bias wasn't what made me cry, it was the denial of my request. It's hard to explain, but sometimes my emotions are a little too big for the situation, so her no became, you are stuck with this doctor, and every time I need new meds, etc., I will have to go through this again, and I can't do it. Which was the last straw in that moment. I don't really know anything about how usual that kind of racism is. As said, my country is extremely white, so it's probably bad, but something like that didn't really cross my mind before this. If it is usual for such a thing to happen, then I get her reaction a little better. Yeah, I'm gonna go with no assholes here in this situation. I think it's just a complete series of unfortunate events. A lot of it, in my point of view, my opinion, coming down to OP's disability and lack of experience in situations like this, which just compounds the emotion, as we saw. Not to say that OP is a bad person. I don't think they did anything particularly wrong. I think they did what they could with the tools they had at their disposal, and it's fair enough that the receptionist and the doctor thought that she was just being racist. I'm on their side for that one as well. If I was them, I would think the same, and I would think that OP coming to me was just making thinly veiled excuses not to see a non-white doctor. Completely understand where they're coming from there. I do think OP should take all of the advice that they've gotten in this thread and work with their parents as well, who would help, condense that information and make it easier for the doctor and the receptionist to understand and fix this mess, because I can't imagine this gets any better for OP if this situation doesn't get resolved swiftly. And now, on to the update. I must start with thanking everyone for commenting. It made me feel so much better that the people here had the patience to explain what might have gone wrong and give advice, as I really had a hard time figuring the whole thing out. I emailed my doctor the next day and explained the situation. In short, I told him how my APD makes it hard for me to understand him and that I was really overwhelmed after my visit, so I couldn't explain myself properly. I also expressed that it made me feel awful that I had been put in that position and that his feelings had also been hurt as a result. Luckily, the doctor was really understanding in his reply and apologized on behalf of himself and the receptionist. He then went on to agree that my reasons are indeed valid and that we were not a good patient-doctor match. He said he will work everything out and apologized once more. I'm glad to say that everything was resolved, and I even received an apology card from the receptionist. And my new doctor is a very nice lady whom understands me and my problems extremely well. I decided not to escalate, as everything worked out in the end, and all offending sides were sincerely sorry. Thanks to everyone who commented and helped me figure this out. In the comments, B. Nomley says, I'm so glad to hear that things worked out. I didn't see your original post when you first posted it, but reading it now, I could feel your pain coming through your words. It does sound like it was just a horrible misunderstanding, and I'm glad your new therapist is someone who understands you. Best of luck to you in the future. OP says, "Thank you. It really was just a huge misunderstanding all around. Even worse than the usual misunderstandings that happen with me. That's awesome that everyone was able to get each side of their situation taken care of. I know I usually get pretty frazzled and would shut down in face-to-face interactions, which is why I prefer text. I'm so glad that all of you were able to work it out and get the help you need. Everyday misunderstandings happen all the time, so it's rare that each person gets to own up to their own mistakes or misunderstanding, and better yet, move forward and resolve the situation. Kudos to you all. Accidents happen, man, especially when you first meet someone. I had an advanced maths teacher from years 8 to 10. Awesome lady, she could explain a single maths concept in multiple ways so that everyone was guaranteed to understand it. She was very kind and patient too. When I first met her, I could not understand what she was saying. She grew up in India and her native language was Hindi, but she was fluent in English. I felt so bad that I couldn't understand her. Fortunately, after having her class for a couple of weeks, I could understand her perfectly. The more you talk and listen to the person with the accent, the better you will understand them until it's like the accent is not there. I can totally understand why you asked to change doctors, as you likely will not see them often enough to grow used to the accent. OP replies, "Sometimes I get used to a way of speaking after a while, but usually my brain doesn't work like that. I have trouble with certain patterns of speech that, coupled with accents, make it very hard for me to understand. It's not something my brain learns by itself and gets used to. I can compensate in other ways, i.e. support signs, written communication, but it takes time and effort that would have been away from discussing my actual treatment." The accent part is very true and could lead to very dangerous outcomes in the medical field. One of my aunts is a pediatrician overseas. She studied at the home country her entire life, but understood English enough to land her a spot in the United Arab Emirates. When she got there, almost every other personnel she worked with had a deep accent, requiring almost every important communication to be in writing, since they've already had a history of charting wrong diagnoses. It slowed the hospital a lot, but it was better than picking the wrong leg to cut off in surgery. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think taking your time with these things, even if it does slow down the hospital and cost the hospital money, probably better than a lawsuit for cutting off the wrong leg. And in OP's case, I think it was very good that things got solved amicably, quickly, and peacefully, like they were in this story. Thank you for the update, OP. Very glad to hear that you were able to solve everything and not have a repeat of that first story's situation. Unexposed is by user Crystal Cleric, and it's titled, "My 25 female, boyfriend 26 male of 1 year just told me that he wants me to pay him a rental fee for borrowing his car to visit my family. Am I wrong to be upset? Ordinarily, this wouldn't be a problem. I would just take my car, but it's being fixed right now. This meant that in order for me to drive to see my family for Thanksgiving, I would either have to rent a car or borrow someone's. Since my boyfriend was flying out to California for Thanksgiving and wouldn't be using his, I asked him if he would mind if I borrowed it. He told me that of course I could borrow his car. Nothing else was said about it until today, other than some minor things. I texted him to thank him again for helping me. The way I worded things apparently made it clear to him that I was only planning to cover the gas that I used, and he told me that he expected me to pay him a reasonable fee for using the car. Reasonable to him is $50 a day plus replacing the gas I use. So the visit will cost me at least $250 in addition to whatever the gas costs. It is his car, so I don't think I can really argue with him about this. I do understand in principle. I don't think being his girlfriend entitles me to use his stuff whenever I want, but I'm hurt that he's being so stingy. We've been together for a year, it's the holidays, and my only other option was renting a car through a private company. I guess I would have hoped that he would have been more sympathetic, but maybe he has a right to expect that he be paid for the use of his car. I don't know. I very rarely ask for any favors and cover all of my expenses myself, so he can't say that I'm using him or exploiting him financially. This has never come up before, so I've been taken off guard. Maybe I am being too sensitive. In the comments, Lonnie Lee says, if he said you could borrow his car and now he's saying you can rent his car, he's changing the deal midstream and it's sort of weird. Personally, I'd conclude that he doesn't really want me to use his car for that period of time and I'd rent one from a private company. He should have just told you up front that he didn't want you to use his car. OP replies, I even checked with him a few times to make sure that it was fine. At no point did he mention that he wanted me to pay him. Banana Skin says, that seems ridiculous in my honest opinion, and I'd be pissed if someone asked the same of me. Well, if my significant other or a close friend asked it, I don't really get his motive. Is he trying to make money off of his girlfriend just because he could? I don't see why, if you're paying for gas, and obviously covering anything else that you personally do to the car, like if God forbid you got into an accident or spilled coffee on the seats or something, he needs some kind of additional fee. Your relationship isn't a business. This situation seems like some bullshit. You could try talking to him more about it, or you could refuse to pay the fee, saying, I thought you were joking. Or you could rent from an actual company and incur the costs, but avoid this weird power play. OP says, he's not one to joke, so I have no doubt he really is being serious. I would be interested to know why he wants me to pay. I'm not sure what he really gains unless he thinks this will discourage me from borrowing his property. Banana Skin replies, well, maybe if you've lost or damaged his property before, or are irresponsible with stuff. I don't mean any offense to you, but that's the only thing I can think of without knowing more details. He sounds like a tool. OP says, nothing like that has happened before. When asked what if her boyfriend makes other demands, OP says, if we do go out, we usually have to plan it around his sports team's schedule. He also refuses to do anything that he thinks is a waste of money. No vacations, movie dates, bowling, etc. I completely understand what type of person he is. I was going to say what type of guy he is, but I understand that women are also like this as well. And as much as I support women's rights, I also understand women's wrongs. Okay, guys? Let's just put that out there. I haven't dated someone like this, but my mom has, so I understand after a while how much this mentality wears on a person, because I wouldn't hear the end of it myself. There is so much frustration, anger, and resentment that builds up when someone refuses to do something because they think it's a waste of money. Or in this case, you go out to coffee and you don't order 2 coffees and 2 little snacks. No. Let's just have the 1 coffee and we'll share that and we'll split the snack. It's just better economically. Oh my God. Yeah, I understand that. From my point of view, where I'm standing, I see that person that is very skint and does not like to spend their money like that as a bit of a tool. Just being brutally honest with you there, guys. And that mindset, if allowed to continue in the state that it's in, with no, concessions made, no compromises at all to find a reasonable middle ground, that will just sink the ship. Sooner or later, someone cracks. This is OP's first big run-in with it. Not to say that the no vacations, movie dates, or bowlings weren't run-ins. Those were more like minor ones that you can kind of be like, well, I've been dating them for a few months now. It is a bit weird, I understand that, but I can get over it for now and we'll do those things in the future when money isn't as much of an issue for this person. But now, if I were OP, I'd be very much questioning what the hell's going on with the car and why you're charging me $50 a day when we're dating. Me personally, I wouldn't charge my girlfriend $50 a day. I would probably even cover the petrol. Now, if I look at it from his point of view, there are a few possibilities as to why he is doing what he is doing and what his thought processes are. To me, the most likely one is that they are someone that is incredibly money hungry. I don't know if that's the word, just economically minded. And that they themselves do not think that their actions are a problem, and in order to get ahead in life and get a big net worth and feel financially stable, you have to make sacrifices like this, and you have to make sure that you're not doing things that are economically inefficient, like letting your girlfriend use your car and running up the mileage, increasing the wear and tear, making use of your insurance that you pay for. There has to be some give and take in that situation. It only makes sense. To me, this comes down to a fundamental incompatibility between the two. And in my point of view, it's not to say that everyone is like this. The person who is money hungry like that will not be the one to change. They will not be flexible in that regard. I personally do not see this relationship lasting. And no, you are not wrong to be upset. And now, onto the update. Hey everyone, I know a lot of you have been wanting an update. I meant to post one a few days ago, but things have been really busy lately. I didn't want to ruin my Thanksgiving holiday thinking about the car situation, so I decided to wait until I got back to discuss it with my boyfriend. I was really hoping that this was all just a misunderstanding, but unfortunately it was not. When I brought up the rental payment, my boyfriend said that he thought that it was only fair that I compensate him for the use of his car. He asked me if I had a problem with that, and I told him that I did. I mentioned what some of you said about how I could have rented a car for less if I had known he was going to charge me, and I also told him how I felt like he had taken advantage of me by only mentioning the fee after I had taken his car. One thing that one of you mentioned was that maybe someone had suggested it to him. I asked him about that, and he said that no one had said anything. He just figured that it would only be fair for me to pay for the use of his car. I did at least get him to see that the price he charged me was too high, but he didn't think he was wrong about the fee. We ended up having a larger conversation about how tight he is with money and some other things that I mentioned in my first post. I didn't intend to break up with him, but after he still insisted on the rental payment, I just realized that he wasn't someone I wanted to be with. I did end up paying him, but it was $100 instead of $250. So that's the update. He has apologized and asked me to take him back, but I don't think I'm interested anymore. Thank you for your help, everyone. In the comments, OP explains her ex being tight with money. Nothing to a point. I am perfectly able to, and always have, split everything with him, but even if I pay my way, he would still refuse to do almost anything that costed money. I don't need to always go out and do things, but even 3 to 4 times a month was too much. We're not even talking about a nice restaurant or an expensive trip. We're talking can't go to Chili's or go to bowling because it's too expensive. Zwixik says, in the long run, $100 is a cheap price to pay to find out someone's an asshole. Imagine being married to someone like that. He probably would have charged you for hours spent wedding planning. This reminds me of that one storyline in the Joy Luck Club. The husband insists on dividing everything by their fair share. Just nickel and dimes his wife over everything, down to the scoops of ice cream if I remember correctly. So petty and gross, but great movie. That was one of the parts in the movie that made me cry. My now ex-husband would post the receipts for things he paid for until I paid him back. Things like diapers for our baby daughter, oil change on my car, and one time, the daycare fee for the week. He taped the receipts to a piece of paper titled Loans to Wife's Name and put it on the refrigerator. The page of receipts sure came in handy in court. Gwynassin says, struggling to think of what his end goal was. So you get $250 out of your girlfriend? So what? You apparently knew that it was going to be somewhat controversial with her because you didn't mention it until the last minute when she couldn't look for rentals. How do you not assume some level of blowback, if not being broken up with, like what happened? And how do you double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down at every opportunity that she gives you to rethink your stance to make sure she breaks up with you? Some people's minds are so foreign to me they may as well be from another species. She was too expensive. Wife demands for 5-star meals at Chili's. And the occasional movie night. He has his $100 to keep him warm now, and no one will ever force him to go out and do anything ever again. I really want to keep using examples from my mum's experiences in this field, but I won't. Because a lot of what I'm reading here, it tracks. And there are other things this leads to as well. If you continue these relationships where you're like, Jesus Christ, that is a really unsustainable ask. What the hell, man? But anyway, I'm glad they broke up. Here's $100 to keep him warm. God bless his soul. I hope he cherishes that one. Because obviously, she was too expensive to be taking out on movie nights, going to luxurious restaurants like Chili's. Oh my God, can you imagine the scenes if he had sacrificed his gigantic hoard of wealth for such monumental experiences to share with your loving, greedy guts girlfriend? Who does she think she is, demanding all of this money from him and demanding to use his car for free? God, OP, you are such an asshole for doing that. You are the scum of the earth, mate. I don't know. I think this was inevitable, wasn't it? Like, is there anyone that seriously can say in the comments below, let me know if you do, that there was actually a possibility of this relationship being salvaged, him seeing the light and being a normal person? I just don't see it. I think some people get to an age where they become so deep and dug into their ways that they're just not going to be any different to that. Ever. No matter what you do, no matter what you say. They just need to find someone that aligns with them, and then they will have that happy marriage that they're looking for. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I love to yap. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you, OP, for the story, and thank you for the update. Am I the asshole for not banning my wife's dog from our home, even though my son is suddenly allergic to it? I have a son from my first marriage that I have 50-50 custody of. We alternate weeks. My now wife used to work in another state, and she has 2 daughters. We dated long distance, and I would see her every other week when I traveled for work. My son has met her and her daughters many times, and we moved slow. We only married after the kids were okay with it. My wife finally got a new job here 3 months ago, and we bought a house together in the same city that my son and I live in. Her kids are still adjusting to the move and are not thrilled. The problem now is with my ex, my son, and my wife's 6-year-old German Shepherd. My son has met this dog many times before and has had no issues before. Well, after we bought the house and my wife brought the dog here permanently, there has been a whole disaster. Remember that my son has seen this dog many times before with no issues, and there is no known history of dog allergies. But now it seems like he's having a mild reaction to the dog all of a sudden. It's some redness around his eyes and sniffling. An allergist has confirmed this. My ex has gone absolutely crazy, more than usual, and refused to let my son over unless the dog is removed. She's also not approving the use of antihistamines if the reaction is bothering him. I ended up spending $40,000 to renovate our basement so that my son would have a living space that is totally separate from the dog. I also bought several air purifiers and a vacuum and scrub everything every single day when he's living here. It's exhausting, but the moment he complains of a possible reaction, my ex takes him back to her house even though it's my custody time. Now it appears that my son is listening to his mother and making ultimatums that he won't be coming over unless we get rid of the dog. You can see why this is difficult for me. My wife and stepdaughter are completely attached to their dog. My wife is beside herself and is now saying that she regrets buying the house together. But we are stuck with the house for a while because of financial reasons. I really thought the separate living area was a good compromise. It's much nicer than the rest of the house, and I'm down there the entire time he is. I'm just so sick of my ex constantly trying to run my life, and I refuse to put my wife and stepdaughters through something as traumatic as giving up their dog. My ex told me yesterday that I was putting the dog over my son's needs, and it broke my heart. That is not what I'm doing, and it's killing me that he's hearing this from her. Am I the asshole here? My son is 13, and I don't know how much longer I'll be able to force him to come live with me on my time. In the comments, Oldhead says, Info. What in your custody agreement makes it okay that your wife has refused to allow your son to come, or refused to allow him to take antihistamine or any other medication? What she seems to forget is she's no longer your wife, and while she has a say over what does and does not happen with her child, She has no say in what goes on in your home as long as you are tending to the safety and well-being of your child. Like, oh, I don't know, putting on a $40,000 addition for a separate living space? OP says, the way it's written, both parents' consent is required for medical decisions. My ex also buys into a lot of conspiracy theories that my son is now also starting to believe. Half the Revolution says, not the asshole, I think. It seems like his allergy is pretty mild, and you've gone above and beyond to accommodate it. He's 13, not a little kid. He can take medicine if all he gets are the sniffles. It's not really fair for your wife to have to get rid of her dog for some sneezes. However, if his allergy is any more serious than you're letting on, it's more of a problem. Regardless, your ex is being a real asshole. She should not be interfering in this so heavily, and she should not be doing so by playing up the issue to your son and making him upset with you over it. Have you sat your son down and talked to him about it one-on-one? OP says, it is a mild allergy for sure. That's even how the allergist put it. But my ex has been convincing my son that it's worse than it actually is, and they are both overreacting. I have tried talking to him several times, but when his own mother is contradicting me, he's obviously confused and is just siding with her. Trash Panda Amanda says, not the asshole. You worked really hard to come up with a compromise and spent $40,000 to do it. Your ex is being completely unreasonable. It may be time to take her back to court. Oh, he built a dungeon to keep his teenaged son in. Yeah, no teenager will love being locked in the basement when he visits his dad. A dungeon? It sounded like the kid got his own apartment. What kid doesn't want his own apartment? Seriously though, you might want to get back in touch with a lawyer, OP. Yeah, especially when it comes to someone that is down the conspiracy theory dark rabbit hole kind of content. That's not good. You're not going to get any reasonable middle ground or any reason at all, full stop, from a person like that. I can see why you would come to the internet, OP, for advice around a situation like this and where she may be coming from, if you can deal with this situation without going to the courts or spending money on lawyers for something like this. Completely understand that, but the fact that she is such a conspiracy theorist tells me all I need to know. I have made all my assumptions up about her. It tells me exactly how much parental alienation you're going to be experiencing, and the fact that anytime he shows any allergies, she rips him away from you and breaks the custody agreement, and then starts saying, oh, I can do that because there's technicalities in our agreement, so you have to listen to me. Yeah, no, I think it's time to rip the kitty gloves off and get straight to the lawyers about this and rewrite that contract. She's playing some stupid bullshit game. You should fight fire with fire in this situation and change the agreement so that she can't do this. Because I think she's taking advantage of the situation, taking advantage of your kindness, and just being an asshole. So I hope that you're able to fix this. And now, onto the update, titled, My son and ex lied about the severity of his allergies, forcing me to give my wife's family dog away. How do I fix this? The situation is honestly tearing my family apart. My son from my first marriage is 14 now. When I got married to my now wife a year and a bit ago, everything was going great. We did things by the book and made sure the kids were happy before we got married. Once we got married, my wife moved to the state where my son and I live. We bought a house together. My wife and stepdaughters had a 6-year-old German Shepherd. My son met this dog several times before and had no issues. After we moved in together, my son started getting mild reactions to the dog. The doctor said antihistamines would be a simple fix, but my ex refused to let him take them. As a result, I completely renovated our basement to the point that it's nicer than the rest of the house, just so my son could have a dog-free space. I spent a lot of money doing this. This wasn't enough, and my son, with my ex in the sidelines, gave me the ultimatum of him or the dog. At this point, we had had months of conflict, and my son leaving early anytime he had discomfort. So after discussing with my wife, we made the heartbreaking decision to let someone else adopt the dog because we didn't want my son to feel like we picked a dog over him. My stepdaughters were devastated, but were very understanding. My son resumed seeing me as per the schedule, and it seemed to be working out. Until Christmas, when my ex bought a dog for her family. And my son is freely taking antihistamines now without any complaint. This has obviously not gone over well with my wife and stepdaughters. The kids are fighting non-stop with my son, who is not even being remotely remorseful. My wife is incredibly upset and angry, and I feel like a fool who fell for a very cruel trick. I talked to my son about this, who just seems to avoid the subject. My ex has basically been very rude and flippant about the whole thing. My stepdaughters have said they'll never forgive my son, and I'm just left here wondering how I salvage this. And family therapy isn't an option because my ex opposes therapy. I'm saving to change our custody order because my ex is abusing clauses that let her deny certain medical treatments that she disagrees with. I'm also feeling very betrayed by my son. I know he's being caught in the middle, but his subsequent attitude has been very disappointing. In the comments, Polite Cranberry says, "Yeah, this kid needs therapy. Family therapy may be good for the half that can get it in the meantime, so they can process their loss better. So sorry, by the way. My parents' German Shepherd is my best friend, and I'm allergic to her, so this is making me have all kinds of feels. He is devious, in pain, and I'm concerned Mum may be refusing therapy because she's purposefully poisoning and manipulating the son against you, and a therapist would see through that. Quote, my son with my ex in the sidelines gave me the ultimatum of him or the dog. She knew that if he asked, the choice would be more difficult. Quote, my son leaving early anytime he had discomfort. He knows you don't want him to leave, so you'll avoid making him uncomfortable, which basically trains you to be a doormat. Have you spoken directly with your son about this? He needs to understand the gravity of what his actions have caused. So please don't minimize you or your family's feelings about this while speaking with him. He needs to understand the consequences of his actions, and if he can't, won't, or doesn't care, I'll just hope extra hard that the custody stuff works out so that you can put him in therapy. OP replies, I have talked to him many times, and he knows how much it killed my wife and stepdaughters to let the dog go. I'm so disappointed with how remorseless he is, and I have no idea how I can bring this family together again. I know that my ex is definitely manipulating him, but surely he should have some empathy for himself. Deleted says, quote, and I have no idea how I can bring this family together again. You don't. And you seek therapy to accept that your inability to do that is not your fault. It is your wife's, and to a lesser extent your son's. He's old enough that he had a say in his actions. Do not do the wrong things because you're chasing after some hopeless dream of a fairy tale reunion and the family getting back together. Do right by your daughters, do right by your son by making him face consequences for his truly heinous actions. If he's mad at you, well, sometimes that's part of being a good parent. OP replies, I'm not sure what kind of consequences I can even give. His own mother is apparently orchestrating all of this. He's not a badly behaved kid, it was just this one thing, but the one thing turned out to be a huge deal. I don't know. I feel like I can't do anything right. And on to the latest update, titled, Today I fucked up by being a shit dad and doing the same thing I accused my ex of. So I've posted this situation on Reddit before. Long story short, we ended up giving away my wife's family dog because my son developed a mild allergy after we'd already bought a house and moved in together. My ex refused to let my son take antihistamines and goaded my son into making an ultimatum, him or the dog. Well, last Christmas, we were shocked to find out that my ex got a dog and started my son on antihistamines. We felt completely betrayed, especially my wife and stepdaughters. My stepdaughters were extremely upset with my son, and we had to keep them separated. I then decided to be stupid and petty and start legal proceedings to gain full custody based on my ex buying a dog. I said I didn't want my son on toxic medication like she did, but I honestly just wanted revenge. In response, my ex also gave her dog away. A month ago, my son moved out of my ex's house to my parents' house. He said he wasn't going to live with neither my ex nor me. I went over really pissed because I thought this was him playing into my ex's schemes. Instead, I sat and watched him cry and say that now everyone at both houses hates him and he's being bullied. And he included my ex and I as the ones bullying him. I felt like I was shot through my heart. I realized I'd done exactly what I was accusing my ex of, using my son as a pawn in our conflict. When did I become this disgusting person? How did I let myself become such a terrible father? His face was filled with so much hurt and sadness. He was already getting shit at my home from my stepdaughters, and I'd managed to make the kids at my ex's house dislike him too. What I'd interpreted as being remorseless was actually him putting walls up because he was feeling attacked. I'm so ashamed of myself. My dad told me he was very disappointed in my actions last week. I sat in my car and wept. I'm disappointed in myself too. I created a mediation appointment with my ex, and she actually participated. She also seemed to be full of regret. We came to an agreement to stop fucking up our son's happiness just because we were assholes. But I'm not sure if we can salvage this situation with our son. He's cut both my ex and me off completely, and I can't even blame him. I just had to get this out. I haven't been able to sleep for a while now. I tried calling my son today again, and he actually answered this time. He told me he hated me. To hear your child say that he hates you and actually mean it is the worst feeling in the world. In the comments, Tittlemouth says, "My ex constantly manipulated things with my son, doing a lot of damage to him, me, my wife, and our daughter. The one thing I never did was stoop to her level. In the end, my ex went too far, and my son has been living with me, no contact with her, for over 2 years. She's done nothing to reconnect with him. This guy had $40,000 to drop on a renovation and didn't hire a lawyer to rain hellfire and brimstone on her without fucking things up? My lawyer would never have allowed me to bring that kind of case, even if I'd wanted to." Late Association says, "Best take here, go to court for the overstepping ex." What? Good for you not being the low person. You gave your son a safe place. I was gonna say, why didn't he just tell the judge that his ex was violating the custody agreement and fight for that instead of going the petty route? He should have just told the judge the truth, that the ex refused the meds for the son and caused OP to have to rehome his dog, his family's dog, just months before getting her own and providing the son's meds. That's a very clear-cut case of one person being petty. Turning the ultimatum around on the ex was just about the stupidest thing that OP could do. Pretty sure the judge would have been more pissed at the medical neglect that she was so openly doing and judged on that. If I were OP, I would have gone back for that, and then if I got a positive result, would have gone civil after that and wanted her to pay for all of the costs that I paid that were ultimately pointless because she was weaponizing the son. He shouldn't have had to pay $40K for the renovation since she was using the son as a tool. OP should have spent the $40K on attorney's fees initially, rather than building a basement apartment. I gasped when I read that the ex got a dog. Like, that made me so angry on the new wife and stepdaughter's behalf. And I still think the kid was showing no remorse, and now he's blaming the whole thing on his parents and running away from his own guilt. Yeah, there were so many times within this story that different actions could have been taken, and therapy could have been a great mediator for everyone. Could have stopped a lot of the bullshit happening in this story, I think. And honestly, I'm in agreement with that last comment. I don't think this son is entirely guiltless in this situation. Like, yes, he is 13 to 14 years old. He is young and inexperienced, but you had so many conversations with him. You tried so much to get through to him, and I'm sure his mum did so much manipulating behind the scenes as well, but yet he listens to her and not to you, and now he blames the both of you. But he doesn't recognize that you tried so much early on to not have this outcome happen. I understand you, OP, did wrong by being petty through the courts and doing exactly what she did and showing that you were just like her. But surely he recognizes that you tried not to do that you spent all of this time and money on the house in the first go-round to accommodate him, to make sure that he had as comfortable a living situation as possible. If this to me was an Am I the Arsehole story, I would genuinely give everyone an everyone sucks here verdict for this one. Everyone did wrong, including the son. I hope that you're able to fix the situation as it is now, and that everyone can mature and learn from their mistakes that they've made in this situation. I myself would hate to be caught in the middle of all of this. This is just a nightmare. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the updates, OP. That was quite the adventure. Good luck with your future with them. Today I messed up when I invited a homeless person to a house party. Last night, I, 24 male, convinced a random homeless man to come with me to a house party. I was very high when I made this decision. The house party was also a costume party. I had an extra costume, but not an extra person, so stoned me was like, why not go out and find an extra person? The homeless man in my street was at the top of my list of potential candidates. I approached him and asked if he was keen to go to a house party dressed as a stormtrooper. He asked if there would be food. I said yes, and alcohol. Homeless man was in. We showed up at the house party together. I was dressed as Jesus. White robe, crown of thorns, hippie hair, the conventional version. The homeless man was dressed from head to toe as an average stormtrooper. I encouraged him to avoid removing his helmet and drawing too much attention. A suggestion, not an instruction. I didn't keep an eye on the homeless man for the entire night. He did his thing, I did mine. From time to time, I caught him low-key lifting his helmet above his mouth to eat or drink when he thought no one was watching. Seeing that convinced me that I did the right thing. The homeless man was having a good time, and my stormtrooper costume did not go to waste. A win-win. Like I said, I was high. If you're reading this, something obviously went wrong. I found out when it was too late that another person at the party was also wearing a stormtrooper costume. The stormtrooper was at the party with his girlfriend, who at some point confused the two stormtroopers and ended up grind dancing with the homeless stormtrooper. The boyfriend stormtrooper noticed his girlfriend enthusiastically rubbing her butt on another person's crotch and wasted zero time introducing his fist to that recipe. I was not there to witness what happened in person, and even if I was, I doubt I would have been sober enough to realize what was going on. I heard more than one version of the story. Some say the stormtroopers fought each other until the unknown stormtrooper lost the fight and ran away. Others say the unknown stormtrooper won the fight and then ran away. That being said, everyone agreed that one of the stormtroopers did indeed run away. No one knows that it was my stormtrooper who ran away with my costume. I really liked that costume. Now I might never see it again. In the comments, The Real Napoleon says, "So if I get this straight, you gave a hobo a great night with raunchy dancing, free food and alcohol, and new clothes. Homie is ready to fight for the Empire." My thoughts exactly. Now OP has a great story, and Street Guy had a great night, hopefully. Plus, if the stormtrooper in OP's costume won the fight, OP now has a bodyguard for life with a stormtrooper costume that sleeps outside his house. Boyfriend stormtrooper sounds like an insecure loser for choosing to throw a punch over what was obviously a simple misunderstanding. Seriously, like it's so obvious how it could happen. Hope he didn't take it out on the girlfriend too. Right? Like the boyfriend would have to be insane not to immediately be able to see the misunderstanding that could occur with two people wearing the same suit and no one knows who is who. Honestly, I've definitely run into people like this in my life before, and I think they are just looking for an excuse, any excuse to fight. I myself will avoid people like that, like the plague. I'll keep myself as far away as possible when I recognize what type of person that is, because nothing good can ever come from any kind of relationship, any kind of proximity to someone like that. They are looking to give themselves permission to immediately enact violence upon anyone. And it's sad that, Stormtrooper Homeless Man bore the brunt of this guy's violence and brutality, and I really hope that Homeless Man was the one that beat the shit out of him for it, because that guy definitely deserves it for something that was honestly just a simple misunderstanding. And now, onto the update. So a couple of years ago, I invited a homeless man to a house party. No idea why I did what I did, but since I had a decent amount of drugs in the system, I was like, the drugs made me do it. Because it was a house party where people were encouraged to wear costumes, I convinced the homeless man to wear my stormtrooper costume so that no one could see his face. I dressed up as Jesus. Fast forward to the homeless stormtrooper bumping and grinding with a random girl at the house party. The girl was under the impression that she was grinding on her boyfriend, who happened to be dressed up as a stormtrooper too. Chaos erupted when the boyfriend appeared and apparently became physical with the homeless stormtrooper. I didn't see what happened, but based on eyewitness testimonies, the homeless stormtrooper fled the scene. I never thought that I would see the homeless man or my stormtrooper costume again, but I did, yesterday, years later. I was walking in the park, as one does, with a girl. We were on our second date. Things were going well until a fucking clone of Tom Hanks in Castaway appears out of nowhere and surprised us. I didn't know who the guy was or what he wanted until he pointed at himself and repeatedly said, "Star Wars! Star Wars!" Enough times for me to finally be like, no fucking way. It's the homeless stormtrooper. As soon as the homeless stormtrooper noticed my confusion turn into realization, he unexpectedly closed the gap between us and gave me a bro hug like we were buddies. It was awkward, but I allowed it because I kind of felt guilty for how things turned out the last time he saw me. I introduced my date to the homeless stormtrooper and explained to her how we knew each other. The homeless stormtrooper encouraged us to follow him to his tent so that we could see that he still had the stormtrooper costume. I pointed out the time and explained to the homeless stormtrooper that we were on our way to see the new Fantastic Four movie and we didn't want to be late. My date responded and said we still had loads of time before the movie begins, which prompted the homeless stormtrooper to lead us to his tent. The homeless stormtrooper entered his tent alone and came out like 3 minutes later wearing the stormtrooper costume. My date was really impressed. I did my best to match her energy, but all I could think about was not missing that movie. The homeless stormtrooper disappeared into the tent again before reappearing with a skateboard and doing tricks for us. My date, who seemed to have forgotten that we were supposed to be bonding and shit, took her phone out and proceeded to film the homeless stormtrooper for her TikTok or whatever. Meanwhile, another person emerged from the tent. I kid you not, this person literally looked identical to the homeless stormtrooper. I didn't ask, but I figured they were twins. The homeless twin approached me and offered to sell me condoms. The guy lifted his shirt and revealed a fucking belt made of condoms strapped to his waist. I said no thank you, but he refused to take no for an answer, saying that he could tell what size condom I used by shaking my hand, which made no effing sense to me. My date overheard this shit and encouraged me to shake hands with the homeless twin. To please my date, I played along and I shook the dude's hand. Needless to say, it was no ordinary handshake. The homeless twin didn't let go of my hand for at least 30 seconds before pointing at one of the condoms on his belt and saying, "Regular." What? My date asked me if that was accurate. I was like, what are the odds of me being average like most people on Earth? My sarcasm didn't land, and I ended up paying the homeless twin for his overpriced and expired condoms just to make him leave me alone. I was just about to inform my date that it was time for us to go, but then the homeless stormtrooper fell off his skateboard. After helping him get back on his feet and making sure he was 100% okay, I gave him some money and said goodbye. We were late for the movie, which I already paid for, so I had to book another time slot and pay again for both me and my date. In other words, I paid twice the price, twice, for an IMAX show in 3D, which is not cheap. On top of that, I had to pay a condom whisperer for prehistoric condoms and a skateboarding cosplayer for existing, I guess. Weirdest and most expensive second date of my life so far. In the comments, Leo La Dog says, "I got to where you said she seemed to forget you were supposed to be bonding. My dude, that was what was happening way more than a movie could offer." OP says, "My date had the same reaction, which I appreciate. I guess I'm still processing the fact that all the positives about this experience was sponsored by the homeless twins. I think I might actually visit them again and show my gratitude. I'll bring condoms that are not expired." Angel Irene says, "At no point ever could I predict what was coming next." At this point, I was expecting her to marry the stormtrooper at a Star Wars-themed wedding. My friend actually did organize one years back, with him as the best man. I at least want to find out what happened for there not to be a third date, cause I would totally date that man. Who knows? That was one of the more wild stories I've read in a while, and I think it is a damn tragedy that OP didn't come back and confirm whether there was a third date or not. That was a roller coaster from start to finish, an expensive one nonetheless, which is, I guess, par for the course as far as roller coasters go. But damn, imagine that as one of the inciting incidents of your relationship. That is a banger of a story to share with people. It's sad that OP didn't realize how fun it was in the moment, but I can see from their shoes how stressful and chaotic that would be. Thanks for the story and thanks for the update, OP. Our next post is by user AnxiousFem12, and it's titled, "My husband's childhood best friend asked me for a favor and then humiliated me in front of her family. I'm done being the bigger person." I've been sitting on this for a few days, trying to decide if I'm just being dramatic or if I've been letting too much slide for too long. So I, 30 female, have been happily married for a few years now. My husband, 31 male, is honestly a gem. Kind, patient, hilarious, loyal. Basically everything you'd want, which after having an ex cheat on me with his best friend is kind of a big deal. That relationship wrecked me for a while, but I worked hard not to drag the wreckage into something new, and my husband, thankfully, my husband has never given me a single reason to question him, until now, maybe? I don't know. My husband and I have a great relationship, and we're pretty social and often hang out with each other's friends. I get along with almost all of his group, and they've honestly made me feel welcome, except for her. His childhood best friend. Let's call her Claire. Claire has always been cold to me. Not outright rude, just subtle enough to make me feel crazy for noticing. You know that kind of vibe? Every time we've been in the same room, she's managed to talk around me, not to me. I tried. I really did. I've smiled, made conversation, been nothing but warm, even when she's given me nothing to work with. She doesn't show up to group hangouts, but she'll invite him over, and he always tells me, to his credit. He never goes without mentioning it, and he's never weird or secretive about her, but it still rubs me the wrong way. I've tried being friendly, I've tried small talk. Hell, I invited her to our birthdays, barbecues, engagement dinner, and she bailed on all of them. She skipped our wedding too, and she only ever seems to reach out to him, usually when she's just been dumped and needs to talk. When I've brought it up, my husband says I'm overthinking it, that Claire's just a little odd socially, and maybe she is. Then a few weeks ago, out of nowhere, she messaged me. She asked if I would model for her project. Totally unexpected. And I was caught off guard enough to say yes. Part of me thought maybe this is her trying to connect. Maybe this was her olive branch. I even felt a little hopeful. God, I was naive. So I agreed. My husband offered to come with me since he hadn't seen her in a while and thought it'd be fun to catch up after. When we got there, her family was also involved, and from the second I walked in, it was like stepping into some passive-aggressive Twilight Zone. Her mum and sister kept calling my husband our son-in-law. I laugh, awkwardly. Think I must have misheard. It only got worse. During the shoot came more of the snarky comments, jokes about the one that got away, and some bonds never fade. Her mum at one point literally said, "We always thought Claire would end up with him, but life has its detours, I guess. Claire always imagined walking down the aisle with him, and then, it's sweet of her to fill in though." Oh, come on. I wish I was exaggerating, and Claire just kept snapping pictures, smiling, saying nothing. No, hey, cut it out. No awkward laugh, no redirect, nothing. My husband? Clearly uncomfortable. I watched him fidget through the whole thing, clear his throat a few times. He tried to change the subject or came nearby me during the shooting. He didn't say much either, just went kind of quiet. I stuck it out for an hour, let her take her photos, smiled, posed, whatever. But the whole time, I felt like I was part of a social experiment, and everyone else was in on the joke but me. When we got in the car, he was silent for a while, and then finally said, "Sorry about that all. That was weird, right?" And honestly, I didn't even know what to say. Because yeah, it was weird. It was borderline disrespectful, and the fact that he was there, saw all of it, clearly felt it too, and still didn't step in or pull the plug? It makes me feel kind of alone in this. I'm just tired. Tired of pretending this woman is harmless or just awkward. She knows exactly what she's doing. I don't want to start a huge fight, but I'm at the point where I don't want her in our lives. Not as a friend, not as a ghost in the corner of our marriage. No more bending over backwards to be the cool wife. I'm not interested in earning points with someone who clearly doesn't want me around. Anyway, thanks for letting me scream into the void for a minute. I really needed to get this out. Edit. Sorry guys, English isn't even my first or second language. Sometimes it's harder to get my points and feelings across. Just to clarify a few things people were asking about, Claire is actually a photography major, and this shoot was a part of her final project. I'm not a professional model or anything, but I've done some hobby modeling here and there, so when she asked if I'd help out, I thought it was a casual favor. Why at her house? Well, she comes from a wealthy family and has a fully set up photo studio in their house, which is why the shoot happened there instead of at a regular studio. I honestly thought it'd just be her and the camera, not a full audience with drinks and commentary. Additional background, I grew up in a pretty emotionally abusive household, so I think I've gotten too used to passive-aggressive comments and just sort of freeze up. Maybe that's why I didn't react in the moment. But yeah, it definitely hit harder after the fact. I will update you as soon as possible. Thank you for all your comments. In the comments, No Strawberry says, "Borderline disrespectful? I'd hate to see what you think is actually disrespectful." OP says, "Wow. Reading your comment, and honestly so many others, has really helped me see just how not okay that whole situation was. I think that I was so used to brushing off this kind of behavior that I didn't even realize how deeply disrespected I was. I grew up in an emotionally abusive household where snide comments and passive aggression were just part of the background noise. So when someone pulls that kind of crap now, I think a part of me automatically minimizes it like, oh, I've heard worse. But reading all of your reactions kinda snapped me out of that. And yeah, it hurts that my husband didn't shut it down. I've been trying to rationalize it in my head, like maybe he didn't want to escalate things because it felt like a trap, or that he's not used to being in these situations. None of that excuses it though, not even a little. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. Really talk. Not brush it off, not laugh it away, just lay it all out. Because at this point, I need to know where he stands. Thanks for the reality check. I needed it more than I realized. I know I've read this one before, but there's a new update, so I'm going to read the new update, as well as the update that I originally read. I still stand by the fact that the husband was a coward in this situation and should have said something. I don't think it's on OP in this situation to make a scene and scream at those two that are openly talking shit to OP's face. OP's husband knows everyone else in that room much more than OP does, and yet he just let it happen. There was no pushback whatsoever. There was no reassurance to her in the moment. He just went along with it, and I think that was completely disgusting. I'd have many choice words for the husband, and I would be like, it's me or your childhood best friend. You cut her out of your life right now, block all contact, and we never talk to her again, or we're done. I would seriously issue an ultimatum like that. That is an incredibly messed up thing to put your wife through. And now, onto the update. A quick recap for those who missed the original. My husband's childhood best friend, Claire, has never liked me. She skipped all invitations, avoids me in person, and still found little ways to insert her into his life. The final straw? She asked me to model for her final photography project. I showed up thinking maybe it was a fresh start, but nope. Instead, I got publicly mocked by her family, who joked out loud that she should have been the one marrying my husband. First off, holy crap, I did not expect that post to blow up like it did. Thank you everyone who commented, messaged, or just made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind. So many of you guys asked for an update, and here it is. For those wondering, no, they never dated. He had a high school crush on her over a decade ago. But that's ancient history. No, I don't think he's ever cheated, emotionally or physically. He's always very open and honest. We have each other's passwords. They barely see each other anymore in person, maybe once every few months. We live about 2 hours away. Okay, so here's the update. Funny enough, I didn't even get the chance to sit down and talk to my husband before something else happened. I just can't believe my life at the moment. Anyway, I was still trying to process what happened and sort through my anger towards Claire, and honestly, toward my husband too. That's when I got a message from my sister-in-law. We'll call her Madeline. I'm really close with Madeline. She's also a part of the wider social circle that Claire floats around in. They're friendly, but not close. She sent me a screen recording from Claire's close friend story with a simple WTF. It was a clip of me posing during the shoot, no music. But in the background, you can clearly hear Claire's sister say, "Claire should have been the one to marry him." I lost it. I waited until my husband got home from work, sat him down, and showed him the video. He watched it once, then again. His whole face changed. He finally looked pissed. I couldn't help but think, why didn't he have the same reaction there? So I laid it all out. I told him everything. Every snide comment, every time Claire made me feel small, how I'd always tried to be civil, how I never asked him to choose between us, but I was done being polite while someone consistently disrespected me. I told him, if this doesn't bother you enough to act, we've got a bigger problem. I'm not going to be in a marriage where I have to beg to be defended. I need a partner who stands up for me, and if that's not you, then I need to rethink this. He didn't argue, didn't get defensive, and I know he feels sorry. Then I showed him the Reddit post. He tried to read every comment. Some of them made him tear up. When he finished, he looked at me and said that he feels like the worst husband. He let this happen right in front of him. He is so sorry, and asked me, "What do you need from me now?" I told him straight up, this isn't just about her anymore. It's about whether or not you're willing to protect this marriage. But I'm not gonna feel like I'm second place in my own relationship, so it's either me or her. So we called Claire. She picked up all cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. We brought up the video. She immediately got defensive and was like, "Oh, come on. It was just a joke. Are you really mad over that? Seriously?" And that's when he stepped in. This isn't just about the video. It's the constant disrespect towards my wife. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to lose your friendship, and I convinced myself you didn't mean it. But what happened at that shoot? That was disgusting. My wife came to support you, and you and your family treated her like a joke. I didn't speak up then, and I'm ashamed of that, but that ends now. I don't even know why I held on to this friendship for so long. If you can't respect my wife, then you don't respect me. She laughed, literally laughed, and said, "Wow, you're really cutting me off over that girl?" Oh my God. I was ready to fight. But my husband calmed me down, said to Claire, if choosing between you and my wife ever felt like a hard decision, I wouldn't deserve her. We're not kids anymore. You need to grow up. I simply don't want to be your friend anymore. I have nothing else to say. I'm telling you guys, he can be a gem sometimes. But yeah, we blocked her and her entire family. And since then, he's been checking in with me. Not trying to fix things, just showing up, listening, understanding. He finally sees what I've been dealing with. We've still got some healing to do, but now I know where he stands, and that changes everything for me. And now, onto the final update. Hi again. I wasn't going to post a third time, but a bunch of people kept asking for an update, so I figured I'd just close this out. Also, oh my god, I honestly didn't expect my original post to get that much attention. I wrote it when I was angry and exhausted and needed to vent. I thought maybe like 5 people would see it and I'd feel slightly less crazy. Instead, it kind of exploded. My husband actually read the second post too. Yeah. After seeing it all written out and reading the comments, which surprised him that people were still curious, but maybe that was a good thing. Anyway, the update itself isn't dramatic. After that last call, we blocked Claire and her whole family, and that was it. No follow-up, no weird texts, no fake apology, nothing. Just silence. And honestly, the silence was kinda the best thing she ever gave me. My husband's been great. Not doing too much or trying to overcompensate, just steady. He finally sees how much I was putting up with. He's been more protective in a real way, not just in words. He owns how passive he was before. It doesn't feel like we've been trying to move on, it feels like we're on the same page now. I think the biggest shift is internal. I'm not second-guessing myself as much. I'm not trying to win people over who have already decided not to see me. I feel a lot more grounded, and it's because I finally spoke up instead of brushing things off. So yeah, not much drama, but a lot of clarity. Thanks to everyone who commented or messaged, or just listened. I'm probably gonna delete this account soon, but this thread honestly helped me more than I can explain. For anyone else dealing with subtle disrespect that makes you question your own gut, you are definitely not imagining it. You are not being dramatic. You don't have to keep being the bigger person just to stay nice. Anyway, that's it. Thanks again. In the comments, Sir Wong says, "The no dramatic update is the best kind of update. I am so happy for OP. Seriously, I was expecting the usual, then she had a batshit crazy meltdown, tried to steal our baby and got arrested, but somehow the whole family demanded I forgive her and give her the baby, so I got divorced a week later, and now I'm living my best life in another country and my ex lost everything. Kinda shit these stories seem to love. This is the right closure." I was expecting my husband has secretly been texting her behind my back, as a minimum, because that's how these always go. I'm so happy to be wrong. Quote, and asked me, "What do you need from me now?" Better than steamrolling around playing White Knight slaying all the dragons. Basically saying, you were the one who was hurt and wronged. What resolution would help make things right for you? It's so interesting how movies have damaged me, because I was expecting OP to be upset with her husband for not automatically knowing what she wanted him to do and get angry for him asking. Apart from the initial mistake of being too tolerant of Claire's bullshit, the husband did everything right. He listened, apologized, gave OP space for her feelings, changed what he could without thinking he could fix everything. What he did is basically what you should want and expect from a partner who makes a big mistake. Yeah, I agree with that. I think movies have done quite a bit of damage on people's perceptions of situations like that, in that nobody is perfect and no one's going to know exactly what to do in the moment and understand and comprehend what exactly is going on. OP's partner is imperfect. He made mistakes. He allowed abuse to happen, and he didn't do anything about it in the moment, but he did show up for OP. He didn't make excuses. He didn't try and gaslight her, manipulate her, try to tell her that she wasn't valid to her feelings. He just asked, "What can I do? How would you like us to approach this situation together? How can I fix this?" And they worked together, and they got the job done. Bob the Builder would be proud. Thank you for the story, OP, and thank you for the second update that you brought to the community. That was a great way to wrap up this quite nightmarish situation that it started off as. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Future ex-fiancé is angry because I don't want to share my son's money. I, female 35, met my fiancé 2 years ago. My son 4 gets on well with him, and my ex-husband, my son's father, also likes him. Now to the point. 3 years ago, I won a large sum of money in the lottery. Not millions, but enough for a nice life if I work normally and a good start for my son later. 75% went into a savings account that my son will have access to when he's 21. My fiancé always thought that he had plenty of money and never let me correct him. I insisted on a prenuptial agreement, and for that, the finances were disclosed. Now, the amount in my son's savings account is about 5 times more than anything my fiancé has. Completely enraged, he left the lawyer's office and ignored all calls for 2 days. For me, that was the end of the relationship, and I wrote to him saying that he could have the ring back. A week later, he was at the door. He would love me, but was in shock, and now wanted details of where the money had come from. He also told me that he had a 5-year-old daughter from a previous relationship and that it would only be fair to split the money so that his daughter could also benefit from it. He sees it as justified, as I got the money through luck and not through performance. I gave him back the engagement ring and kicked him out of my apartment. Since then, I've been getting messages from various social media profiles and cell phone numbers that I would be the arsehole who was ruining his daughter's future. I only found out about his daughter that day. I never saw any photos or anything like that in the past years. In the comments, what? Your ex-fiancé suddenly has a 5-year-old daughter whom you never met, let alone you never knew? This alone is a reason to break up. Not the arsehole. You dodged a nuke. Go treat you and your son to a fun day. The level of entitlement is stunning. Just remember, not your child. Not his money. The trash took itself out. Definitely. I just can't imagine what kind of mindset causes someone to get enraged and storm out upon finding out that their fiancé has more money stashed away than assumed and it was going towards their child. I'd have been popping champagne that they showed so much fiscal responsibility and common sense. You knew this guy for 2 years, got engaged, and didn't know he had a daughter? And he's upset that you didn't mention your son's money? OP says, well, I tried to tell him about my finances. He never wanted to know. He always was kind of like, yeah, I'm the man. You don't have to worry. Oh my god, this is a massive red flag too, to be honest. Good riddance, OP. I mean, fair enough that people can look past behavior like that. I just always question why people don't question their behavior from a guy that goes, or a girl as well. Many girls do financial dominance like that. But the one that says, I'm the financial provider, you are the one that I provide for. I'm not going to ask anything about your life. Let's just assume that that's the dynamic. I don't need to know anything about you. You don't really need to know anything about me. Let's get married. That's my take on the situation. That's the energy that's coming off of like this relationship. And if your partner has that mentality, of course they're going to be pissed off and upset that you have so much more money than them, because it breaks the illusion. Do we not see the smoke on the horizon? Do we not see the coming danger and threat when you reveal information like that? I genuinely want to know how you're going to get engaged to someone like that without knowing how they react to relationship imbalances and if they're cool with that or not. Like seriously, I feel like we've seen too many examples in this day and age of that going wrong in this exact situation that OP is experiencing right now. No, you're not the asshole here, but I question why there weren't more conversations before this. And now, onto the update. Hello everyone. Thank you for your support to my original post, and sorry for the long wait for an update. After receiving many of your tips, I took my son to his grandparents, informed the police, and also my boss. Unfortunately, the police can't do much in my country as long as he doesn't commit a crime against me. Harassing me on the phone and begging for money doesn't count as a crime. I informed my boss, mainly because my ex-fiancé works for a company that we deal with almost daily. That's how we originally met. In recent weeks, there have been many attempts by his friends and family to contact me, all of whom wanted to convince me to give him the money. But everyone hung up when I asked about his daughter. When my ex-fiancé showed up at my work, he didn't normally have to do that after getting a promotion, My boss called my fiance's company and explained that if he took one more step in my direction, all contracts would be cancelled due to their unacceptable behavior. This led to a meeting with my ex-fiance's boss, my boss, and me. I didn't tell them every detail, but when it came to the money, his boss explained to me that my fiancé actually wanted to buy a large stake in the company and was allegedly just waiting for the loan to be paid out. This made it clear why he wanted my son's money so badly. My ex-fiancé is actually a highly respected employee at his company, which is why his boss was reluctant to fire him, especially since this probably wouldn't have improved my situation, and similar to the police, his boss considered it bad behavior, but it wasn't a criminal offense. At the same time, my company is a very large client for them, and sweeping the whole thing under the rug wouldn't help. After a few days, I received the news that my fiancé was being transferred to another branch of the company, several thousand kilometers away from me. The company's purchasing department also clearly rejected the purchase. Afterwards, I found out via social media that my ex-fiancé actually has a daughter. A friend was still following him on Instagram to keep an eye on him, and when she looked at his tags from the last 6 years, she actually noticed his ex, and a look at her profile showed a girl of the specified age. I contacted her, and she willingly explained to me how much he actually wanted a child, and how, when the ultrasound showed that it was a girl, he left her. He broke off contact with the mother during the pregnancy and willingly gave up all of his rights and obligations as a father. She herself is now in a happy relationship, and her husband loves her daughter. She never asked my ex-fiancé for money. Following your advice regarding the savings account, I contacted our financial advisor and can now say that I must apologize to you. It is indeed a trust fund, I just hadn't referred to it as such until then, as it is mainly referred to as a savings account in my country. But yes, it is a trust fund in the American sense. I discussed with my ex-husband, the father of my son, once again how we would make the payout, and thanks to your tips, we've now decided on a staggered payout from ages 21 to 35 so that he has a contribution for several stages of his life. The amount at age 21 has been chosen so that it can be used for college, but at the same time, it won't hurt too much if he squanders it. My question about am I the arsehole here was mainly because there was actually many people in my circle who called me that because I persuaded my ex-fiancé to sign a prenuptial agreement. But for me, a prenuptial agreement was important for several reasons. 1. To secure my son's money. Now I know he wouldn't have been able to get his hands on it. 2. I started a small business in addition to my main job. Nothing big at the moment, but it's still mine. 3. I'm saving money so that I can eventually realize my dream of owning a house in Australia, and I didn't want to lose that money to him in a divorce. Me too, OP, good luck. In retrospect, I can see how many red flags I overlooked on his part, and I will definitely be more careful in the future. Thank you for your support, also via DMs. In the comments, Ill Topic says, protecting your son's future doesn't make you the villain. It makes you the only one in his corner while everyone else tried to cash in. Agree. She did exactly what any real parent should do. The way folks tried to guilt her for protecting her kid is actually wild. Girl dodged a whole financial horror movie. I'm glad you trusted your gut and didn't let the guilt get to you. For real, like, she was one signature away from starring in a true crime doc. It's wild how trusting your gut saves you from a lifetime of regret sometimes. As a fellow Australian, I'm not sure what lazy police officer told you that harassing calls don't equal a criminal complaint, but they are wrong. You can absolutely lodge a formal complaint against him if you have a record of all of the call logs. And while it may not lead to charges in court, the police can make a visit and tell them to stop. You can also inform your phone company about it if it continues. And OP says, I live in Central Europe, and unfortunately, things are very country-specific here. He didn't threaten me, blackmail me, or anything like that. He made a hell of a lot of phone calls, yes, and tried to persuade me, but nothing that could lead to a court order, according to the police or my lawyer. He didn't show up at my door, and when he showed up at my work, it was the first time that I'd seen him in weeks. For me personally, I just question if he is so wise, I guess, to know the boundaries of all of these specific laws that don't constitute threats, blackmail, or anything that could be legally actioned in this country, how is he not wise enough to keep his cool, not react so emotionally in the moment with your lawyer there when you're sorting out the prenuptial agreement, and everything else before that? It seems like he's really good at some things, but really terrible at others, and critical thinking is not his strong suit. I don't have the answers to this one. I'm glad he's such a dumbass in the areas that it counts and that have protected you. And I do hope that you keep your money safe, you keep your life safe, and that you're able to come here and live the ever slipping away dream of house ownership and property ownership in Australia. As bad as it is for everyone else all around the world, it's pretty bad here as well, I'll tell you that. My God, OP, that 0.3, what are you, smoking crack? That is a pipe dream right there. I think you might need your son's money if you want to achieve that one. Either way, I'm sorry that you're having to deal with all of this bullshit from him. I do hope that he leaves you alone in the future, but if not, take all the advice that you can from your lawyers and anyone else to not fall victim to more of his bullshit. You have a good head on your shoulders, OP, and I trust you'll do the right thing. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update. Our next post is by user ThrowRA11, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole here for letting daycare call CPS when my soon-to-be ex-husband failed to pick up our toddler from daycare?" So we're in a trial separation. He wants half custody. It's been several months, and this was the 8th time that childcare has called me because he was unable to pick up our toddler. Sometimes he was just a no-show, and the daycare would call me because it's been half an hour since their official close time. Every time, the daycare is pissed at me for making them stay overtime, and we're charged $2 per minute for being late. They threaten to call authorities and the CPS if we keep doing this. I tried to explain the problem, but daycare doesn't care. As they shouldn't. Well, last week it happened again, and I told the daycare to go ahead and call the authorities and CPS. My soon-to-be ex-husband showed up an hour late and met our toddler there with the cops. The daycare also threatened to kick our toddler out, again, understandably so. My soon-to-be ex-husband was so mad and said I was a cruel mother for abandoning our toddler. He didn't say that. There's no way. I told him I warned him multiple times in the past, and issues only arise when he has custody. We switch each week, trialing houses swap too. I told him repeatedly that if he cannot get out of work reliably, then he needs to hire a babysitter and nanny, and he cannot rely on me as his primary backup. I'd get it if it was like once or twice a year, or if the babysitter or nanny plans fell through, but if I'm his ex-wife and he has custody, he shouldn't depend on me as his primary backup. And I also felt bad about leaving our toddler, but if we separated, this would only keep happening, and I felt that short-term pain might be worth the long-term gain. I feel bad that our toddler is caught in the middle, but was I the asshole for letting daycare call CPS? Relevant details: we're both high-paying jobs, but I intentionally do not schedule myself to work late on days that I have him, or I have a nanny or babysitter ready. Now with the trial separation, I've cut down to half-time. I work half days on the days that I have our toddler so that I can spend time with him, and work long days on days that I'm child-free. He has made no changes to his schedule. In the comments, Lurking87 says, "Not the arsehole. If he wants to share custody, he needs to do work half the time or deal with the consequences like an adult. I have a family member going through a divorce. Soon-to-be ex wants full custody, but still wants her to have the kids full-time so she can raise them, quote-unquote. He'll just pop in and out when it works for him, and he's shocked and pissed that she isn't going for it. My ex attempted something similar. He wanted 50-50 on paper, but for me to have our child full-time while he saw her every other weekend. He didn't want to pay child support. Luckily, his lawyer told him legally he cannot do that. If he wanted 50-50, he actually had to parent 50-50. He gets visitation every other weekend the legal way. Please be careful that you don't screw yourself over with this. Yes, your soon-to-be ex should have consequences for failing to care for your son by not picking him up from the daycare during his parenting time. However, you may not be helping yourself on the upcoming custody battle by telling the daycare to go ahead and call CPS. Instead, go pick up your son every single time and document it. Ask the daycare to call your soon-to-be ex before calling you, and to keep a record for you for how many times he has to be called because he is late or no-shows. Use that documentation of your soon-to-be ex's irresponsibility in making sure your child is cared for to get full custody of your son, limited visitation, and full child support. OP says, I would lose my job if I keep calling out in place of him. Moomin Trolley replies, how will you manage your work commitments if you get full custody? The current situation is clearly not working, and it's negatively impacting your child. Your husband is unlikely to get better, so you need to think of a new plan. OP replies, I'd use child support for a part-time nanny. I have a stay-at-home mum friend right now who I pay to get my child if my day runs long. Would be abnormal because the weeks I have him, I only do shorter days. I'm done usually by 2 p.m, but she's there as my part-time nanny to help me out if I run late. Her kids are older. So the question of the post, am I the asshole here for letting the daycare call CPS? For me, I understand the reason why you did it, and from the outside in, if I turn my critical thinking skills off, no, because he deserves to have the CPS called on him for being a shitty parent and not looking after his kid, not making the sacrifices that it takes to raise a child, not being a responsible father and parent. Putting yourself and your needs and your schedule above that of your child's non-negotiable schedule. But it's just so reminiscent of the story the other day with the parent whose ex got his German Shepherd taken off of him and his stepdaughters and the new family, and then he went to court and did the same thing when his ex got a dog because she was being hypocritical and maliciously using the law in a stupid way to attack OP. I think this was an asshole move to call the CPS because, yeah, how is that going to look in court when you abandoned your child as well, and yet you're the one here trying to get full custody and make an argument for that? Ah, yes, my husband, who frequently abandons my child, abandoned my child again, and I showed that I'm the better parent by also abandoning my child. Therefore, I know that CPS was called, and I told them to call CPS. I should get the child full-time. I can be trusted. No, you can't, OP. What is wrong with you? That was not the way to deal with this situation. You need to think of better solutions, OP. I'm gonna go with everyone sucks here based on that principle. And now, onto the update. Not too much to update, but after talking to our lawyers and mediators, it was decided that I'll be moving back to our old home with our toddler in another state and resume my old job. We moved less than a year ago for his career. I will have primary custody. He has proven that he cannot handle custody. We have agreed on an amount of child support, approximately $4,000 per month. He'll keep our current house once we leave and take on the mortgage. I'll keep our old home after the tenants move out. We are set to move back in 2 months. His lawyer advised him to accept these terms because I have clear documentation of him failing to fulfill his parental obligations, evidence that suggests alienation and career sabotage, and he's lucky that I'm not seeking compensation for that. To answer some questions, I did not call CPS, the daycare called the cops, not CPS. I was scheduled to work on the weeks he was supposed to pick up our toddler. I did choose to not scramble for coverage to pick him up, as I was already in trouble for spontaneously leaving every 2 weeks, on his weeks, to cover for him. In addition, getting coverage would take 30 minutes plus, and then another 30 minutes to get to his daycare. Yes, I could have problem-solved and asked my friend to pick up, but I did not. Yes, the daycare knew about trial separation and knew that it was Dad's day, but since he wasn't coming, they called me. My old job still has needs, so I will resume there. Most days are 7 to 3, but there will be some 12 to 24-hour shifts in which I'll have an au pair. We used to have one. And I'll have family around, my mum and siblings. We had moved away from my family, so my mum can help me with occasional pickups if needed. In the comments, I Am Netler says, I don't understand men who want 50-50 custody but don't want 50-50 responsibility. I know most are about money or trying to punish the ex, but damn people, please think about your children. Do what is best for the children. Men want the 50-50 because they don't want to pay child support. They are also counting on the ex to pick up their slack and be used all the time as their backup, which OP refused to do. Good for her. He thought he was going 50-50 when they were married. He really thought that he was doing his share. Clearly, because it took his lawyer telling him, look, you are not caring for your child, it's not your wife nagging, it's not the daycare overreacting, it's not a conspiracy of people out to screw you. I am your lawyer, I'm telling you, you do not parent your child. If you have to take a pay cut to make this happen, he should also cover the difference. OP says, I took a $250,000 pay cut. That's why his lawyer is like, shut the hell up, take it. Xanax and Wine says, my ex-husband tried to pull something similar. At first, I asked for full legal and physical custody when I first filed because he abandoned us for his affair partner and also because he screamed in my face some months prior that he never wanted our youngest 2 children. All 3 of our kids were incredibly thoroughly planned due to fertility issues. At court, he freaked out because he didn't want to pay that much in child support, so he wound up with them 20% of the time every other week and 30% of the time every alternating week. He has kept them extra only 3 times in as many years, although him and his affair partner and new wife are off a lot on exchange days. The first few times that they were sick at school on his days, he said he needed me to go get them because he was at work. For context, when we were together, all I ever heard was, my job is more important, I have to go to work. So I threw that in his face then. I told him, sorry, you and your used garden tool are a 2-income household. I'm single-income household. My job is more important than yours now, and our parenting plan says it's the job of the parent whose day it is to arrange childcare. I also used that last line on him whenever he tried getting my mum to babysit them for him on his days, because my mum told him to go screw himself. 3 years, and him making nice most of the time now, he called me yesterday asking for my mum's new number and saying, do you think she'd watch them so new wife and I can attend my friend's wedding? When I told my mum about it, immediately after the phone call, she said, I love them and I love spending time with them, but I know it's his time and his responsibility, so I will do whatever you want me to do. Lol, I love my mum. For me personally, I don't know how to feel given my perspective and my take on the childcare situation. I question myself a lot, and I'd like to think I'm still valid for not agreeing with OP's way that she went about this by saying, call CPS, call the cops. It's not my job. And I agree with this comment, the parenting plan says it's the job of the parent whose day it is to arrange childcare. I myself am an ignorant, ill-experienced buffoon. I've not experienced toxic dynamics like this where my husband, who doesn't exist, where my husband refuses to go pick up the child consistently from childcare and the police need to be called. If people with experience in this situation are saying that OP saying call the police, call CPS is a bad idea, I tend to just believe them and say, yeah, it seems like a bad idea, especially if your ultimate plan is to get full custody of those children. It seems like talking to the lawyers and mediators in OP's situation, it's all working out for her. She has primary custody. She has all the evidence she needs to prove that he failed to fulfill his parental obligations. And there is a treasure trove of documentation to pursue for more if he continues to push the envelope. They have an agreed amount of $4,000 per month for child support. That seems to be a pretty good arrangement. But that's, $48,000 a year when OP took a pay cut of $250,000 a year? Ay caramba. There is just too much going on in this situation. I think OP has done the best with the cards that she was dealt in this situation. Her ex is obviously a piece of shit and I don't think deserves any unsupervised time with a child because he seems to not care for them at all. And I would have a hard time having an amicable co-parenting relationship with someone like that if I were in OP's shoes. But whatever, not my circus, not my monkeys. Glad that this was a reasonably peaceful resolution. Thank you for the story and thank you for the update, OP. Am I the asshole here for telling my daughter her much older boyfriend isn't welcome in our home? My female 48, husband, male 46, and I have a 20-year-old daughter, Ellie, who is currently on vacation from college. About 5 months or so ago, Ellie told us that she had a new boyfriend, who I'll call Tom. This came rather out of the blue, as Ellie hadn't mentioned seeing anyone or that she was dating, but both my husband and I were supportive and happy for her. However, Ellie was strangely secretive about the whole situation. Usually, she's an open book, especially with me, and would always share details of her personal life. On this occasion, she wouldn't show any pictures, and we knew next to no information about Tom, other than they met at a party through a mutual friend. Ellie spent the past month of her vacation in her college town, and the plan was always for her to come back this weekend. Ellie asked if she could bring Tom with her for a few days of the trip, as they were getting serious, and she wanted him to meet us. Although we mentioned that we knew barely anything about him, Ellie expressed that it would be a surprise and that we'd love him. Given he is clearly an important part of our daughter's life, we agreed and said we'd look forward to spending the weekend together. Yesterday morning, we went to pick up Ellie and Tom from the airport to drive them to our place, and we were shocked. We knew instantly that Tom was much older than Ellie, and he certainly wasn't a college student. I was just in a state of surprise, but I didn't want to cause a scene, and I told my husband to do the same. We drove home, but it was a frosty journey, which Ellie commented on. When we arrived, my husband point-blank asked Tom how old he was. Tom said he was 44. I was immediately disgusted. He's only 2 years younger than my husband and old enough to be Ellie's father. My husband continued to interrogate him, asking how they met and the whole background. Ellie explained that it was at a party and Tom was there because he's well known around the town, and they realized they had a lot in common and hit it off from there. I really didn't want to hear anymore, and my husband told Tom to leave. Ellie shouted and said how this was unfair, and we hadn't even given Tom a chance, and that he made her happy. Tom could sense the tension, so left, and Ellie followed behind him. I texted Ellie to tell her that we'd love to see her, and to come over to discuss the situation. She asked if Tom was welcome, and I said he wasn't. Therefore, after labeling me a judgmental asshole, she told me she wasn't coming and that they would be staying at a local hotel and catching up with friends. I feel terrible about the whole situation, and I don't want to lose my daughter over it. My husband isn't budging and said he would have to be held back if he ever saw that man again. Am I the asshole for saying he isn't welcome, or have I done the right thing? In the comments, Leading Summer says, I was your daughter once. Nearly same age gap with a guy that I was dating. The absolute best thing my parents did was keep the lines of communication open between us, because as the guy started to systematically cut me from all of the other people in my life, when I finally went to cut bait, it was my parents who stepped out to catch me. Sneezels for Neasels says, I had similar, and my foster dad was what I believed amazingly chill about me dating a guy in his mid-30s when I was 19. I spoke to him over a decade later, and he said he wanted to deck the guy, but knew that if he pushed me, then I would dig my heels in and the relationship would go on far longer. Instead, he asked me to check in so he knew where I was and when I'd be back to make sure I was safe. He did, however, do other things to gently highlight the inequality of the relationship. For example, he'd make sure to say how nice I looked every time I left the house. The boyfriend would send me back to the house for not wearing makeup / the right clothes. It didn't take too long for me to put 2 and 2 together and realize the boyfriend was a control freak who wanted a trophy girlfriend. Maroon Grad says, play the long game here. The best story I heard, the dad befriended the guy. They talked about stuff relevant to their age group, did dad age stuff together. Talked about things like insurance and retirement and house payments, went out to eat at boring grown-up places instead of sports bars, and just generally acted like middle-aged men. She realized she was basically dating her father. They had almost nothing in common and broke up. In Miranda's says, this is the way. Also, if he abuses her, if your reaction was like this, it can take her longer to reach out to you. The more you object, the closer they'll get, if nothing else, to show you are wrong. Seems to be the way, and a lot of parents are not equipped with the right tools in situations like this to really combat the situation in a way that will not push their daughter away. And son as well. Sons can also become victims to these dynamics, but more often than not, it is daughters falling prey to much older men. I don't think that Opie is the arsehole for telling her daughter that her much older boyfriend isn't welcome in their home, but I don't think that is the correct way to go about this situation, because as people are pointing out, if you want the result in which they break up and she realizes how unequal that relationship is, how messed up that relationship dynamic is between the two, and that she's not right about everything, pushing her away like this is not the way to go. While you're not an asshole, OP, I don't think this will end the way you want it to. And now, onto the update. First off, I want to thank everyone for their comments and messages yesterday. I was overwhelmed with the responses and didn't expect my post to gain so much attention. I know opinions were quite split, but I appreciate everyone for being honest. Please accept my apologies for not responding to anyone, but there's been a lot on my mind, so I thought it would be best to provide an update for those interested. For those who haven't read the whole post, a brief summary is my 20-year-old daughter Ellie brought home her boyfriend of 5 months, Tom, to our house. Tom happens to be 44, and my husband and I told Tom he wasn't welcome in our home. Ellie and Tom are currently staying in a nearby hotel. I was incredibly down throughout most of Sunday, so I spoke to my husband and said that I really wanted to see Ellie. However, I knew that wouldn't be possible without also seeing Tom, so I mentioned to my husband about meeting Ellie and Tom at a neutral location for brunch today. I asked my husband if he wanted to join, but he said he didn't feel in the right frame of mind at this stage, so we agreed that I would go alone. I was anxious throughout the drive, but when I met Ellie, those nerves subsided relatively quickly. I was generally just happy to see her and that she was well. I still felt a bit uncomfortable around Tom, but I thought that this was the opportunity to find out more about him and his intentions, as it were. We sat down, and I tried to find out as much information about Tom as possible. When I asked him to elaborate on being known around a college town and being at the same party as Ellie, Tom said that he used to go to the same college when he was Ellie's age, loved the place, and decided to never leave. Throughout his time, he still frequented the main bars and places that college students do, which meant he remained in the community in some form. I found it quite an unsettling response, but I remained polite. In terms of other details I learned, Tom has never been married, nor does he have any children. He works as a software engineer and enjoys cooking and meditation in his spare time. Something felt off about him, but maybe I already had my preconceptions. Ellie spoke more about what a good match they were and how much in common they had. When I asked her to elaborate, she spoke about how they both love the same spots around town and campus, with, apparently, the same love of sushi. And she's never met someone so mature and understanding. Tom also said that Ellie was perfect for him and he was serious. I probed if he'd had many other relationships with younger women. Ellie didn't enjoy this question, but Tom generally said that he didn't do relationships, yet something about Ellie had drawn him in. Eventually, after about 2 hours, we ended the brunch. Ellie said how nice it had been, and she was so happy I had shown an interest in Tom before asking whether they could come to dinner some evening. I told her that would be nice, but I would have to speak to her dad. Tom shook my hand, and that was that. My husband remains reluctant, but I feel it's the right thing to do if we want to maintain a relationship with Ellie. I didn't like Tom off first impressions, and this hasn't done much to convince me. Something is just off there, and some of his answers solidified my thoughts about him not being right for Ellie. I suppose I'll have to remain open-minded, but appreciate any thoughts. And now, onto the next update. First off, Apologies to everyone for not updating sooner and my lack of replies. I read everyone's replies and messages, but it's so overwhelming that I struggle to know who to respond to. However, a lot has happened in the past week, and enough people asked for an update, so I thought I'd provide one. For context, for those who haven't read the original, yada yada yada, he turned out to be 44, and it's been a huge shock to my husband and I. I met him without my husband and my daughter for brunch without feeling entirely comfortable about the situation, but my biggest priority is not losing my daughter. So, after I came home from brunch, I spoke to my husband about the possibility of Tom and Ellie joining us for dinner one evening. My husband was completely against it, but I told them that if we still wanted to exercise some degree of control over the situation before we pushed Ellie away entirely, this was something we had to agree to. It took a lot of convincing, but my husband agreed, and we invited Tom and Ellie to come around the Saturday just gone. Before then, I ended up talking to my oldest daughter and Ellie's sister, Holly, 23, about the situation. Holly was shocked, and Ellie had told her nothing. Holly decided to do some social media digging, but struggled because Tom didn't have much of an online presence. She said she was coming to dinner on Saturday, although I was reluctant because it seemed like it would spiral. I eventually said yes. So, we get to the dinner on Saturday, and Holly just continually grills Tom. It was far, far worse than I did. She asked him if younger girls were his type, why someone his age is still hanging around at college parties, and other small remarks. Ellie told her multiple times to leave her alone, and I tried to act as a mediator. My husband was just silently seething, and I could tell how uncomfortable he felt in Tom's presence. Eventually, Tom and Ellie said they had some big news to share. Ellie announced that she and Tom were planning to move in together for the upcoming college year. I almost spat my drink out. Ellie had planned to live with other friends, and when I questioned this, Tom answered that he realized that he probably won't have another long-term relationship. Ellie makes him so happy, and he doesn't want to waste any time with who I want to be my wife and the future mother of my children. At this point, my husband lost it and told Tom to get out of his house. Tom stood up and seemed affronted, and Ellie started crying. I couldn't remember the last time my husband had shouted like that, and I think it surprised Ellie. Holly said that it was deserved, and said she needed to get away from the pedo freak. It all ended up with Ellie leaving in tears with Tom, my husband going upstairs, and I was just inconsolable. I've reached out to Ellie since, but she hasn't responded. I don't want her to move in with Tom, and it seems he's trying to derail her whole life. She's 20 and does not need to be married and have kids, especially with someone his age. She's never had a relationship before, and she appears infatuated to the extent she's not going to listen. My husband has told me that if Ellie marries Tom, that is it, and he wouldn't want a relationship with her going forwards. I can't agree with that, and will always love Ellie, but it doesn't mean that the whole situation hasn't made me incredibly sad. I would appreciate any advice. And now for the 1-year update. So much has happened since then that it's been so overwhelming, and it's caused me to completely forget about this. However, I stumbled upon this Reddit account earlier today, and due to the amount of messages I received, I feel compelled to share an update. For those who don't want to read the whole post, the long and short of it is that Ellie is engaged and pregnant. The engagement happened around January, after only around a year of dating, and the pregnancy was announced in March. Ellie is keeping the baby and is due late this year. I'm still heartbroken and am struggling to come to terms with the whole affair. Ellie was so bright, cheery, and with an active social life, and now she lives with Tom in her college town, despite having dropped out of college herself due to the pregnancy, with barely any friends due to most of them distancing themselves from her because of Tom. My husband is also low contact with Ellie and wants nothing to do with Tom, while my daughter Holly also feels the same way and wants nothing to do with Ellie or her baby for as long as she remains with the predator. Christ. You said long story short, OP. I still keep in contact with Ellie as much as I can, not only because I love her, but also as I know that if things crumble, she'll have no one to turn to. She's ostracized herself, which makes me incredibly sad, and I never thought that things would turn out this way. There was a glimmer of hope around March time, where Ellie called me on the phone in tears after discovering that Tom had cheated on her, unsurprisingly with another college student and an even younger one than Ellie. Although I did try and talk some sense into her and figured this would be a wake-up call, she decided to stay with him after a combination of love bombing and finding out that she was pregnant. The wedding has been set for next summer, so the baby can be focused on now. My husband and other daughter have already decided that they won't go, and many others on my side of the family are uncomfortable with the idea. I'm trying to stay strong and hope that I will love my grandchild, but this isn't something that will ever get easier. If there are any other groundbreaking updates, I'll try to share. If not, I appreciate everyone's support and advice. It really meant more than you know. In the comments, Age Revolutionary 3907 says, love bombing, younger, easily controllable person, and isolation? The trifecta of an abuser. I think there's also a good chance that he baby-trapped her. He gets a child that he probably wouldn't get with an older partner, and a wife who will put up with his cheating. Considering that she seems to be aging out on him because he wants younger, I think he didn't baby-trap her so much as he's an asshole that doesn't use protection because it feels better, and she got pregnant because neither of them used protection. OP's daughter is now a bang maid, full stop. I started drilling into my kids' heads that when she was in high school, if an older man acts seriously interested in you, ask yourself, why isn't he with someone his own age? Because those women won't put up with his shit. These men prey on young women with little to no experience so that they can manipulate them. Yeah, my perspective, it's a tough situation because you kind of saw the writing on the wall, and they didn't manage this situation well from the start. I feel like a lot of people said, this is what is going to happen if you continue the standoffish actions that you do and not approach this in a level-headed way that can kind of point out where it's going to lead for her. But at the same time, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know. That's just my stupid opinion. And I believe there are many situations, this one included, that you can do all of the right things, you can go about it in a perfect way, and this will still happen regardless, because some people just do these things. Like Ellie. Ellie just does what Ellie does. She can be cheated on, she can be manipulated, love-bombed, gaslit, everything, and she will still stay with this man. It seems like OP is talking to a brick wall at some point, and by the time Ellie either snaps out of it and realizes what a loser he is, and realizes the hole that she's dug for herself, or he dumps her, it's gonna be too late. The damage is gonna be done. Sad situation. It's obviously not done yet, but I'm not hopeful that the next updates are gonna be any better than this. Oh my god. Thank you for the story and thank you for the updates, OP, but this is so incredibly depressing. Our next post is by user DizzySuggestion2360, titled, Am I overreacting? Girlfriend threw away the dinner that I cooked because she wanted pizza instead. It starts off with a text message exchange, with the girlfriend saying, Hey, when is your break? Can you pick up a pizza so I have something to eat tonight? OP replies, No babe, I made the wine-braised short ribs that you said last night were your favorites. I got up early to cook them. You just have to pull them from the pot. There's that and the small s'mores cakes that I made for Wednesday since there's extra and I figured that you'd want some. The girlfriend says, I don't really want that though. Can you just grab a pizza on your break? We can eat that stuff later. OP says, No, I'm locked in for the night. What's wrong with the short ribs? You literally just told me that it was your favorite thing, so I made it special for you. Kinda sucks. She says, Well, I tried it, and it came out kinda gross anyways, so I'm tossing it. Can you ask to leave for a bit and stop by Papa John's or something? I just want a stuffed crust. OP says, What do you mean gross? You tossed it? As in like threw it away? And she says, It's just tasted bad. I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't eatable. It's not a big deal. I just need to eat something tonight for dinner though. Did you ask? OP says, Dude, what the hell? That was expensive meat. Why would you throw it away? I already told you that I'm not leaving work. She says, Well, I don't know what you expect me to do. It's simple as fuck. Just order a pizza then if you're busy. Like, I have to eat something. Hello? Places are closing soon. OP says, I'm busy at work. I don't want to talk about it right now. Please figure it out. We'll talk later. And she says, seriously? You're gonna be this much of an asshole over this? I didn't ask you to cook anything. If you can't deal with the basics of being a supportive partner, then it should be something I consider and find someone who will support me. Back to the post, OP says, girlfriend texted me earlier. I'm too tired and frustrated to even respond. I was trying to do something nice for her and surprise her with something she said she really liked, but apparently she wasn't in the mood for it. I feel pretty much tired of trying in general. I guess I didn't really ask her what she wanted tonight for dinner, but I still feel pretty angry. In the comments, Potatoes and Cake Why Not says, you really shouldn't be dating a teenager. I can't comprehend this person being an adult. Sarcasm aside, get the hell out of this relationship. You want to spend the next 40 years or whatever with someone who throws homemade meals in the garbage, demands pizza from a chain restaurant, and is seemingly incapable of ordering delivery herself, and is rude as fuck to you? Dude, there are so many red flags in this exchange that you could open up an Etsy store selling used red flags and become a multi-millionaire. OP replies, not sure why I can't edit to add more information on mobile, but I'm borrowing the top comment to answer some questions. 1. She lost her card last week while hanging out with some friends and had to cancel her accounts. She is using mine until her new one comes in the mail. 2. I've not gotten to eat any of the prepared food. And 3. Cooking is my love language. I think I mostly just feel heartbroken at this point, and that's why I've decided to just finish work tonight and talk to her in the morning about it. Edit. Just a quick follow-up. My shift just ended. I'm gonna probably go home and pack some stuff and stay with a friend. She won't be up for a bit, and I don't really feel like sleeping in the same house. Will update after I talk to her later though. I'm Not a Werewolf says, quote, cooking is my love language. I think I mostly just feel heartbroken at this point. Does she usually appreciate it when you cook? Or does she feel like it's your job to provide food to her? Does she appreciate your love language? Or does she just think that it's your job to cater to her and cooking happens to fall into that category? I don't know. I'm not here to make accusations about your girlfriend. I've never met her. But if these texts are indicative of the way that she usually talks to you and treats you, I think you could do a lot better for yourself. There's someone out there who would cry in appreciation if you made them a meal, my friend. Yesterday, I asked my boyfriend if he'd get me a code red on his way to visit me, and he stopped at Tops and got me 5 6-packs of soda because he knew I was out and I'm a soda fiend. And I cried because I'm dramatic and the nature of my mental illness is such that I assume everyone finds me tolerable at best, so a gesture like that makes me feel a lot. I'm not saying someone has to cry about it in order to be appreciative. I'm just saying that you deserve to be loved and feel loved. Snoo Pineapples says, if I got home from work and my husband made dinner, I would be super grateful and offer to clean up the kitchen and load the dishwasher because if he didn't cook, it would be me doing it and he's just saved me the effort. And OK Nose says, 1. Doesn't show appreciation for you getting up early to make her something that she likes. 2. Throws away something you could have eaten just because she didn't care for it. 3. Apparently incapable of solving her own problems. 4. Threatens you if you don't solve her problems for her. 5. Swears at you in exchange. And 6. Thinks a supportive partner is someone who caters to her wants, not even her needs, and expects you to do so even when you're at work. I could go on, but do I need to? P.S. I'm a woman and I'm telling you to run. This ungrateful, emotionally immature person needs a reality check. You deserve better. Took the words right out of my mouth. I don't think you're overreacting in the slightest here, OP. I think you're being a normal, reasonable human being who is dealing with someone that has the mental capacity of a child right now. Like, how insufferable can she be? You made a meal that she said was her favorite, and she's like, actually, no, it's not my favorite. It tastes like shit. I don't want this. I want garbage pizza. Sorry for people that like Papa John's pizza, but I tried it in Ireland once, and that shit sucked. That was so bad. Anyway, she wanted that over a lovely, expensive home-cooked meal that she said was her favorite. The electric chair for her. Next. Honestly, is this the first time that she's acted like this, and this is a... is this a brain tumor of hers? It's my favorite thing to bring up every now and then. Has she suddenly developed a brain tumor that we need to go scan and be like, hey, something's going wrong in that brain of hers. Maybe we gotta do some exploratory surgery because she's never like this. Or have you just become accustomed to how she acts and she's slowly escalating this behavior over time because now you're upset that she's throwing the dinner out? I wonder what the slow roll of events were before this that she has thrown out or she has dismissed or anything before this. I would love a full rundown, but regardless, OP, she's a piece of shit for what she's done here. You deserve better, and I think you should throw her in the trash. I genuinely think you should do that. And now, onto the update. After spending the morning at a friend's house, I went ahead and just went back to our apartment. I haven't really slept, honestly, with how anxious I've been to just go and get the conversation, so I'm exhausted. Basically, I went back to the apartment. She was there, scrolling on her phone. I went ahead and just came out with it and explained to her that I can't keep trying to make things work with someone who doesn't care about what I do for them. She started to cry and tell me that it's just the way that her brain works and that it's not her fault. She says she's trying in her therapy and that she feels like she doesn't deserve to be loved. I more or less followed up and explained to her that I can't be the one to keep dealing with her when she treats me like garbage. She basically got angry as hell at this point and told me that I never cared and I never really tried, or I wouldn't just leave over something so stupid. She broke a glass that I kept from growing up that was sitting on our counter by throwing it on the ground, at which point I just stopped talking. I spent an hour with her yelling and begging me back and forth while I grabbed my things that I have that are valuable. I'm just gonna disappear for a bit at my friend's. I need to figure out what to do about the rent and stuff, since we have a month until renewal. I know it's not really all that crazy of an update, and it's just the way that it should have played out, but I wanted to just get in and out and be done after thinking about it and being ready to move on from being unhappy. I appreciate everyone's comments, and to the people who reached out, I'll be honest, I feel like I've wasted a ton of my life trying to help a broken person, and it's just equal parts depressing, while also a feeling of being empty and tired. I'm gonna try my best to make things better in my life, and only give people who appreciate me and the stuff that I do. In the comments, Parking Bathroom says, honestly, I'm incredibly proud of you for this. You deserve someone who loves you as much as you love them. Get yourself a fun drink, watch a movie with your friend that you're staying with, and just know that your life will be better without that awful ex in your life. This is not an excuse at all for her, but the way she reacted genuinely makes me feel like she has some personality disorder. It just screams borderline personality disorder. This reminds me so much of someone that I dated years ago who had this. I genuinely loved him, but leaving him was the best thing that I could have done for myself. Not everyone who has this disorder is toxic, but it just sends me back to the days when he felt rejected or abandoned by me. He would mock me over anything and everything that he knew would hurt me most emotionally. Oh Honey says, in their last post, they did include that she had some diagnosis that was in the cluster B realm, which, with this behavior, confirms. OP, I hope you don't feel stupid and like you wasted time on loving someone. Loving someone, even through hardship, is a great quality. They just weren't able to receive it. Your actions were correct, and you are now choosing yourself. Now is the time to take that love back during this next phase. It's going to suck, and it's going to be confusing. One day at a time. Figure out your rent and living situation, and then I'm afraid it's best to go no contact. A person who reacts this way will keep trying to rope you back in if you keep lines open. It's not selfish, it's not mean, it's an act of love, and it's for their own good. Boundaries with cluster B disorders need to be rock solid. So look at it this way. Instead of spending the energy on someone who doesn't appreciate it, you're going to spend it on yourself. New Pops 21 says, pay the rent and then tell the landlord that you're not renewing and to talk to her about her own situation because you moved out. This way there's no harm to your credit or any kind of BS to put up with. The minute she threw something, I would have been out, grabbed my shit of value and just left. Start untangling any finances that are joint and leave. You deserve better. I suffer with feelings of not being deserving of love and support due to childhood trauma, and I would never treat my wife like this and expect everything to be okay. Yup. Aside from the fact that it's disrespectful to break stuff like a glass that OP had from childhood, this is violence. This is her creating an unsafe environment, and that's the exact moment you go out the door, grabbing any valuable you can grab on the way out. Yeah, absolutely, OP. She's showing incredible loser behavior. As much as it is violent and manipulative and disgusting, and no one should stand for that, she's an absolute loser for the way that she's acting. Oh, it's just the way my brain works. It's not my fault. Oh, woe is me. I feel like I can't be loved, so I have to violently take it out on you because I'm a piece of shit. You never cared. You never tried. You're just leaving over something so stupid. What, I threw out a meal that I hate and I've always told you that I hated and it meant so much to you? Here, let me break something else that means so much to you. That'll prove my point. Oh, you're leaving? Huh, how about I get on my knees and beg and plead? That'll fix everything. Babe, come back. What did I do wrong? I've been perfect this whole time. Oh, God, she is such a loser. As much as the violence would scare me, I just think I'd laugh in her face at how pathetic it all is. I hope she gets some help, but Jesus Christ, OP, get away from that dumpster fire. It just gets worse the more I read. You genuinely deserve so much better. Thank you for sharing your cautionary tale and the result of it. I hope people that have to deal with similar situations can learn something about the early warning signs of this absolute loser behavior from her. Good luck going forward, OP. I need to leave my boyfriend's house that I just moved into a couple of days ago. Any advice? Here's the email that I sent my therapist this morning, excluding names. I think I need to go back home. My boyfriend got upset with me last night about ridiculous things. Not ridiculous, but his reaction to them was way out of proportion, and then called me a see you next Tuesday and pathetic, and insulted me and my family, and pushed me more than once because he wanted me out of his bed. He grabbed me by my shoulder and face and squeezed me hard because he didn't like something I said. I didn't leave then because I wouldn't have been able to take anything with me, and I think he would destroy my things if I leave them based off how mad he was. I feel like I have to walk on eggshells and have to be careful with what I say, especially when he's upset with me, because according to him, it's not the right answer or reason. He told me that if I keep it up, we won't make it 2 more weeks. He even told me that I should just pack my car and leave tomorrow, which is today. This weekend, coming down was so stressful, and it was all because of him, yet he says I caused it all. I've given him the benefit of the doubt so many times when he gets upset, but I think I need to leave today. He's left for work a few minutes ago. I don't have enough room to take all of my stuff, and if I leave, especially while he's at work, which seems like the only option, because I'm afraid of what he'll do. What I have is what I actually want because I got rid of everything else. I'm going to ask my brother to come down to help me, but his car might not make it. I'm going to ask my friend too if she'd be able to come if my brother can't. I asked her to call me when she wakes up. My brother won't be up until around 9 a.m, probably too. His mum's going to be home all day too, so I don't know how to handle her. I'm afraid she's going to tell him and he'll be mad, but most likely wouldn't be able to leave the work, which is over an hour away, but I feel like I'll need to leave fast once I start. I just need you to know this. I have to cancel my exam for this afternoon, and from what it looks like, I may be penalized for canceling so late. My head's going in circles, and I now feel like I've been making so many wrong choices leading up to this point. I should have never brought my stuff down here when he threatened the private investigator stuff. I feel so torn, because when everything is good, but when it's bad, it's bad. In the comments, Fat Sad Happy says, "He ran by your shoulder and squeezed your face? Run. He's already physically abusive. Run now." He thinks he owns her now that she moved in. This was his opportunity to berate and harm her. Ready Satisfaction says, "Alright, take a breath. You're doing the right thing and moving out. I would say call your brother and friend. Don't worry about the time that they normally wake up. If they love you, they will want to hear you and help you. Are you financially stable? If so, then you can call a moving truck or men with a van. Are you moving back in with your parents? Have you called them? The most important thing is you getting out. But I understand you don't want to lose any of your stuff. Pack your more important stuff into your car now while you wait to hear back from people who can help or call a mover. Stay strong and determined." OP says, "I would be moving back into my parents. My mom already said when I left that I'd always be able to come back home if I needed to. I just finished school a few weeks ago and I pretty much don't have any money." What did she say about him physically abusing you? OP says, "My mom hasn't responded to me yet. I just reached out this morning at 5 a.m. I needed to wait until he left for work." Well, while you're waiting, gather up your driver's license, birth certificate, and any other identity-related documents or records like income tax returns. Update: my dad's coming to help me right now. He's about 2 hours away. His mum saw me loading 2 boxes in my car. She asked me what I was doing, and I just said bringing some things I don't need back to my mum's house. She said something, but I didn't hear it. She's kind of out of it most of the time, so I'm hoping she's not going to think into it too much. I have my boyfriend's location, so I'll know if he's going to come back. I bet he would call me if he had any thought that I was going to leave. Another update: he just texted me saying that I'm perfect and that he loves me, and that he wants to talk to me before my test today. The rest of the message is cut off and I'm not going to open it because I have read receipts on for him, and I want him to just think I'm asleep still. Update later today: I am home now. I cried the whole 2.5-hour drive home. My dad came to help me and I was able to get all my things. His mum made it into a bigger ordeal than it needed to be. I can go into more detail later. I am physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted. Thank you, everyone. I already had my mind made up in leaving, but having so much support from strangers on the internet made me feel even more confident. Rough one, honestly, and I back those comments, as I do every time. If you're escaping an abuser, you take everything that is near and dear to you and your identity and get out of there as quickly and as safely as you can, with as much support in your community as you can. I can't imagine how bad OP felt seeing his mum just coming in and sticky beaking like that. Just knowing that she's going to report to him and be like, "Oh, I see your girlfriend doing something. You might want to come check in on her." Like, thanks for that. Love it when you enable the abuser. That's really cool of you to do that, Mom. You're a top person. That's me assuming things, but more than likely, she's complicit in this situation. And now, onto the update. So it's been about 7 weeks since I left. I'm going to give the abridged version because the next 2 weeks after were a lot. I was able to take everything thanks to my dad driving 3 hours down to help me. It was really hard to officially be done. He contacted me multiple times, of course, and tried to make it better. Blamed everything on alcohol. What made everything even more complicated was that I found out I was pregnant. Even though it was a horrible timing, I was so excited. I'm at a point in my life that I am so ready to have kids. He was the dad, so I felt like he needed to know and be a part of it. He was the dad, so I felt like he needed to know and be a part of it. He was excited and surprisingly supportive and respected any boundaries I put up at first. My mum was supportive. My brother cried because I was still staying in contact with my ex, and he said he knew he was going to do something bad to me and would wake up in the middle of the night with a bad feeling thinking of me. My ex wanted to act like everything was back to normal. He was upset that I had to tell people what he did to me because now we could just be together, which is absolutely crazy. He even said that he wanted to come up that weekend. I wasn't ready to see him and shut that down pretty fast. It was never going to be whether we got back together or raised a child separately or anything. I ended up having a miscarriage and was devastated. Like my world literally fell apart. I spent 2 days in bed just crying. My ex would literally call me selfish for how I was responding to it and how upset I was. We stayed in contact for 2 days after I miscarried, and on the last day we talked, I'd gone to the mall with a friend just to get out of the house. I was bleeding a lot, so I was wearing a thick pad and felt like I was in a diaper. What I'm getting at is that I felt gross and uncomfortable. I had a big jacket on and baggy pants. I had told my ex after that I'd gone to the mall, and knowing how I was feeling, he asked me if I dressed like that if I was still someone's girlfriend. He used to say that I dressed like a slut, which I definitely didn't in any way, and who cares if I did? He said he was going to come up that weekend now, and in that moment, I felt like I didn't even have a choice. We talked a bit more, and then he ended up getting upset with me about something stupid and hung up on me, and I called back saying I was done, and that was it. I blocked him on literally everything from Facebook to Pinterest to his work number. Honestly, everything's amazing now. My friends have been amazing, my family's been amazing, and it's so nice to be able to tell people what he did to me our whole relationship. I have a friend who was in an abusive relationship, and I see her in a totally different light. I got my dental hygiene license and started working a few weeks ago, and it's been great. I do feel for my ex because he was the most hurt, insecure man that I ever knew, but that gives no excuse for how he treated me. I just wished he would learn from this experience, and I know he won't. But that's not my problem. I'm stronger than I ever knew, and I'm so excited for what comes next. Thank you everyone for your support. In the comments, Birdseye says, "Having read your original post and this, I reckon you've had a really lucky escape. I'm sorry you've had to go through a miscarriage, but that's probably saved you from a life trapped in hell for you and a child." OP replies, "I really did. It would 100% have escalated if the relationship continued because it was already building. I've come to terms with the miscarriage. Still incredibly sad about it, but my baby's life ending saved me and my future children for sure. I think you need to forgive your dad for suggesting an abortion. He didn't want you tied to that man forever, or for that man to have the opportunity to abuse a child. You may not have liked the suggestion, but it came from a place of love. It's always sad when someone loses a baby, but I always feel like someone stepped in these situations to keep these women safe and not attached to these terrible men for the rest of their lives. I do hope OP gets therapy though, because she just seemed to keep coming back for more even after she ran away in terror of this man." OP says, "In therapy already. I found out I was pregnant 2 days after I left him and miscarried a week or so after that. It's been 5.5 weeks since I miscarried and last spoke to him." I'm in agreement with the comments once again. It is an incredibly sad situation, but I do think it saved her from a fate of being tied to an abuser like that. And to me, reading that update, it kind of seemed like she was getting ready to get back with him in a sense, and kind of just ignoring and brushing over all of the abuse that she suffered with this man because he was excited to have a child with her. That just, I don't know. I see so many situations like this and I go, why? Why are you so happy to get back with your abuser? Did nothing in that first post ever happen? Is that all forgiven now that a child is on the way? And also look how quickly he just disappeared from her life as soon as the miscarriage happened. He didn't even try to get her to come back and have another child so he can lock her down. He didn't care at all. I don't know what his motivations there were. Just a very weird update all in all. I'm glad that OP is free of him and is now independent and able to live her life without a connection to him. So thank you for the story, OP, and thank you for the updates. Glad to know that you're safe and doing well. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Nowhere House, and it's titled, "Am I the arsehole here for not wanting to buy a house 3 hours away from my workplace? I don't know how to start this. I, 27 female, have been with my fiancé, 28 male, for 5 years. We've just recently saved enough for a deposit on a house, and he's found this cottage in the middle of nowhere, 2 hours away from where we currently live. The thing is, I already work an hour away. I'm a nursery practitioner, and I love my workplace. I've been there since I was 20, and I've worked my way up to a room lead position. Living 3 hours away from my job would not be ideal, but my fiancé won't budge on this house. He says it's perfect, within our budget, and quirky enough to fit our tastes in home style. I've tried to communicate with him about this issue multiple times, bringing up the fact that there's not even any nurseries in that area that are looking for staff, and I don't want to find another job that's a bit further out, but start from the bottom again. He says it'll all work out if I just stop overthinking it, and I've been at my current job for so long that it would be nice for me to start out fresh. Another issue is that I want children. They've always been a huge deal breaker for me, and I don't think it'd be such a good idea to live so remotely when it comes to children, as we'll have to get them to and from school or nursery before and after work every day. The nearest school/nursery is a 30-minute drive away from the house he wants, and we both start work fairly early and finish quite late. It'll also be an issue of their freedom as they grow up, because I think it'd be horrible to have to rely on your parents for transportation all the time and have to skip out on plans if they can't drive you. He really thinks I'm being dramatic about this, and I'll just figure it out. So am I the asshole here for not wanting to move away from my job and basically all civilization? In the comments, not the asshole. You two are not on the same page. You need to sort that out before you get married. OP says, I'm desperately trying to sort it out. I'm considering telling him that I will end the engagement if he continues to be unreasonable and doesn't consider my feelings on the matter. If he will not let you have a say about where you live and thinks he gets to make the decision, that's not a partnership. The 50's called and they want your fiancé back. Purchasing a home is a 2 yes or it's a no decision. If he doesn't think that you're intelligent enough to know what you want in a home and where, you need to end the engagement, take half the money saved for the home, and put it aside for when you have a partner who respects and loves you enough to want your opinion and want you to be happy. Not just give in to his wants. Not the asshole. Politely refuse to buy a house 3 hours away from your work. You can't stop your fiancé from buying this house, but you can refuse to put your name and money into the purchase. I had a 1.5 hour drive. So stressful, I stayed with a relative who lived closer. My house deteriorated, and now I've retired, I have several years of catch-up to do. A 30-minute drive is an ideal maximum. I really think the answer is so incredibly simple in this one. Obviously, it's a complex situation where you're trying to navigate the relationship that you have with this person, but it just grinds my gears so incredibly hard when people keep throwing out that bullshit of just stop overthinking things. You're making it complicated. Don't worry, we'll do it and then you'll figure it out afterwards. No. I'm trying to figure it out now because in my head, the math ain't mathing. You're just trying to get me to sign a contract without reading the terms and conditions. I'm looking at you, everyone that signed a contract without reading the terms and conditions. For shame. But yeah, I faced a lot of those talking points throughout my early life. It's just, oh, you don't understand. You'll get it when you're older. Just do it right now. And back then, as it would be now, those decisions I was forced into were against my better judgment. My instinct said, this is a bad idea. And they still happened regardless because the other person wanted something that triumphed my own needs. And that is what is going to happen to OP in this situation if she doesn't lay down an ultimatum. He can't have the house. It's not going to happen. 3 hours is fucking ridiculous. If I had a partner like that wouldn't give up this stupid, nonsensical idea, I would give them that ultimatum and I'd end the engagement if it went that far, if they didn't let down. This is ridiculous. No, you're not an asshole for wanting to buy the house, OP. Listen to your instincts and listen to the community. And now, onto the update. So I wasn't expecting to be able to update this fast, but here we are. First off, I want to thank everyone that commented on my last post, and also add some context as I realized my last post may have been lacking some. Fiancé and I have been together for 5 years, but I've known him for 12 years. And in all the time I've known him, and especially since we got together, he's always been sweet, taken my feelings into consideration, and hasn't actively ignored my opinion like this. It's always been a 2 yes, 1 no situation in decisions before this. We had a good relationship otherwise. We had date nights once a fortnight, we enjoyed each other's company, had aligning plans for the future, and the same ideals for a relationship. He'd watched me go through a few quite bad relationships over the years before we got together, and did his best to be the opposite of my exes. Though he's always been quite pushy when it comes to sexual intimacy, so I guess that's an issue. But other than that, it was great, and we had actually had a lot of talks about what we wanted in a house. We had agreed that we wanted a house or cottage either the same distance away or closer to my work, a bit more remote, but still with a town or city easily accessible by public transport and car. I'm not sure why he suddenly switched to wanting a house so far out from everything and everyone that we both know. We live in the UK, and a 2-hour drive can have you basically in a whole other world. Anyway, the actual update. I had annual leave from work yesterday, and my now ex-fiancé was having a work-from-home day, something he's been doing more and more frequently as of late. This is another reason why he's so okay with the house he wants being where it is, because he can just switch to full-time work from home. In the morning, I sat down with him and tried to bring up the house. I laid out my points from my last post yet again and told him that under no circumstances am I leaving my job. I love it, and I do not want to search for another. I brought up the countless other houses that could fit our criteria that are in our area and closer to my work, some of which we've viewed. We haven't viewed the place that he wants yet, as we haven't had the time, and I told him I don't want to, as I already know it's not what I want. I also asked him if he really thinks it'd be okay for me to have a 6-hour round commute every day, especially considering my shift starts at 8 a.m, so I would have to leave by 5 a.m. every morning and be up at around 4 a.m. My shifts typically finish at 5:30 p.m, so I wouldn't even be back home until 8:30 p.m. Would he be okay with doing all the childcare in the future, housework, and just everything that needed to be done because I wouldn't be home for any of it? He didn't seem to take any of it to heart, and still insisted that I could find another job, maybe one not even in childcare, and that's what finally pushed me over the edge. Childcare has been my dream since I was a little girl, and I managed to find an absolute dream of a workplace that I know many childcare practitioners would kill to work for. How could I possibly leave that all behind when I've worked so hard for it? He told me he is set on this house, so either I accept it or I leave. I chose leave. I gave his ring back and told him that we're done, that he's not being the sweet, considerate man that I fell in love with, and I don't know why he can't see my side of things in this. I don't want to live a life with somebody that doesn't consider how I feel in all of this. This completely shocked him, and he started begging me to rethink, that we can figure something out. But I refused and went to pack my things. I'm staying with my brother and his wife now, which is nice because they live closer to my workplace, a 30-minute drive instead of an hour, and I get to spend time with my little nieces. I'm hurting, but I also feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I do not deserve to not have my opinion valued, and he certainly did not. I guess it's onwards and upwards, as they say, but I definitely won't be dating for a long time after this. In the comments, he didn't even give up. Quote, "We can figure something out," means his option is still on the table. He just wants to keep debating even after you dumped him. Man, he really wants that house. I'm betting he can't afford it without her though. And/or she does a lot of work around the house, and with her gone, he's gonna have to start cooking and cleaning again. With a daily 6-hour round trip, Opie wouldn't have had time to do the cooking and cleaning. Oh damn. He thought he could strong-arm you into agreeing with him. He thought you would relent because you were engaged and you'd never walk away. And then you called his bluff, and he realized he didn't hold the control over you that he thought. Good on you for calling his bluff and being rid of him. He would have 100% used that tactic again and again if you had stayed with him. You mentioned that the two of you had saved up enough for a down payment. If the money's in a joint account, add up how much you contributed plus interest on the amount and withdraw it fast. For me here, all things considered, this was a pretty chill breakup, was it not? There wasn't too many dramatics, and he seems to still think that they're gonna get back together. I mean, of course, he started begging OP to rethink, saying that they can figure something out, but she refused and went to pack her things. I guess maybe OP didn't want to talk about how the breakup went after the fact, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I do love a little bit of drama, but if you don't want to be dragging his full reaction to the breakup so suddenly into the end of the story, I respect that. These are the consequences of his actions. He needs to own up to them. He needs to accept that he's not going to get his way. And things have, in fact, figured themselves out, like he said. He gets the house he wants. He just doesn't get the wife that he wants along with it. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. I wish nothing but the best of luck to the both of you. Thank you for the story and thank you for the update, OP. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.